Very good morning to you. Yes, we are live from Johannesburg. My name is Evan Jansen. I'm with these esteemed gentlemen for the very last time today. So, I'm feeling a little bit melancholic, Elvis.
Well, it is Evan's last day today, colleagues. He's going to the primetime show, of course, but it was a wonderful time, Evan.
Thank you very much, Elvis. It's been excellent working on the show. This is the best show that we have. There's no doubt about that. I see it now. And you guys have been an integral part.
You're not dying, you're not leaving the building. We're going to see lots more of you. It's been great working with Yeben, and Yeben, you know what? Let's make this a good one and bring it all to our viewers.
You'll be sorely missed, I can tell you that. But we have to move on.
Have to move on. I'm stepping off air a little bit if you guys are going to look for me so that we can fix what needs to be fixed, as it were. And I feel a bit melancholic, as I say, Elvis. It feels like I'm sending a child off to university. But it's in good hands, and you guys should keep on interacting with this show because that's what it's all about. It's all about your views. But today we're focusing on something that is so close to my heart because it seems to be an escalating problem at our schools. Racial tension and more violence.
Violence, especially in schools. I mean, teachers are being shot at school. There's a child that took a gun to school the other day. Shoot. So, I mean, the problem is, what is happening within our schools? And that's why we're asking this question.
Yeah, I know, it's absolutely shocking what we've gotten to in terms of our society in South Africa. And it's actually all like seen in what happens in our schools. And we want to find out from you, why is there so much violence in schools?
That's the question we posed to you. Let's take a look at what you are telling us.
7-year-olds taking guns to school, Elvis? That cannot be right.
Yeah.
That can never be right.
Not in any society.
This one from Vuyo Simawa says to us, black people just send kids to schools. They don't inspire and tell kids why they go to study or the importance of education. Wow.
Strong one there. Kenneth says the security system in schools is poor. You have well-trained security personnel guarding police stations, but they lay guards in schools. It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, there's also the rise of gangsterism on our school grounds. It's a real problem. Gangsters are becoming younger and younger. 10, 11, 12-year-olds are now carrying guns in townships and behaving like hitmen. It is a scary fact, and this spills over into our schools.
Also spills out from our communities into the schoolyard, but starting with the communities, and that's why we're focusing on our poll today, Kendall, because the tactical response team is going to be redeployed and reintroduced into society.
Yes, from everything I've heard about Amaberete is that they scop and they skeet and they make sure that law and order is kept. And we're asking you at home, what do you think? Will the reintroduction of the tactical response and tracking teams help decrease crime?
Amaberete is what they call it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 71% are saying yes. Of 157 votes, that's very interesting indeed. Yes, I think everybody wants action to be taken, Elvis.
Now this one from 150 says, truth is, if the Amaberete don't come anytime sooner, we'll have to resort to vigilante groups to deal with the criminals. Well, there you see, it's a cry for help in our society.
It's scary, that statement, because we see the rise of vigilantism in all of our communities.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's actually quite scary how it is. Michael Bighamstola says, no, those guys were clueless as well. They were just a bunch of bullies in uniforms with no respect for the next person. Hashtag Amabere.
That's the flip side of the coin. Welcome to South Africa. If you're watching from elsewhere in the world, we always have polar opposite views in this country, and it makes it very difficult to execute whatever it is that we try to implement. But we've also got a sports question today.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, the Proteas, I mean, the opening batting pair, I was shocked. A young man, first day really playing for the Proteas, so to speak. And what did he do? 97, close to 100. It was very unfortunate that they ran him out.
Second highest opening partnership in Proteas history.
I like to say that I think he was very lucky. That was like batting on the N1 highway then. And it's a nice way to make your debut, to bat on the N1. It was that flat.
Touche, yeah, but it was that flat, and Bangladesh made a grave error sending the Proteas into bat. But you know what? Aiden Markram stood up, made the most of his opportunity and almost got himself to 100. So what do you think? Do you think that South Africa has finally sorted out its opening batting woes, have found a batting pair?
What are the tweets? What are the guys saying?
Why is the question out on our screen? But anyway, let's take a look at what you're telling us.
Vivian comes in with, yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves like we always do. No disrespect, but the opposition is Bangladesh.
Yeah, I remember Jacques Rudolph got 222 on debut against Bangladesh, and we all know how that ended. Anyhow, Mahdi Mohammed says, too early to get excited, and I think there's a sober view of us.
Definitely. That's what you are telling us. But right now, let's get down to business. The Pretoria High Court will today hand down judgment in the case brought forward by the Democratic Alliance against the President Jacob Zuma. Chief Justice Mogoeng says more effort should be made to share wealth between races. And Stats SA says that sexual offences, hijackings and murder have increased in the country between 2016 and 17. Now, those are all your headlines. Before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendo Makamate what's happening on the sports field.
Of course, while the cricket was going on, we also found that Harun Norgat and CSA had parted ways. There's a lot going on there which we're not sure about. I don't know if you've heard anything about some of the reasons at all.
At the moment, it is a very closely guarded secret, but I will say that I'm seeing some officials from Cricket South Africa over the weekend to try and find out what is happening. The interesting thing for me is that they've done very well financially. So what can the reasons be for this kind of parting of ways?
Because it certainly brought stability to a ship that needed stability.
Absolutely. So maybe there's something we don't know.
Yeah. Now, it remains to be seen. So, yes, that is some of what we're covering today, but this is what else we've got for you in the sports today.
Short delivery and
South Africa punishes Bangladesh on the first day of their test in Potchefstroom as debutant Aiden Makram makes the most of his opportunity but gets run out just 3 runs short of a maiden 100.
Looking for one. Oh, here's a suicide and he's out on 97 Makram.
It's exciting, no doubt about that, but definitely a lot of work to be done. We don't actually want to be, conceding points like we have been against New Zealand. We want to be more competitive in that regard.
After a year on the sidelines, veteran Francois Lowe rejoins a hurt Springbok side who have it all to do to redeem themselves when they man up against their wary Wallaby side tomorrow. And Arsenal makes it 2 out of 2 as it eases past Bate Borisov 4-2 in the Europa League group stage match yesterday.
Away to Theo Walcott, awful error, and it's punished clinically by Walcott, but it's a real gift of a goal.
All this and more I'll have for you later on at about 10:40. I will also be having a sports chat with Yevon right about 9:45, 9:50. Make sure you stay close as Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The Pretoria High Court will today hand down judgment in the case brought forward by the Democratic Alliance against President Jacob Zuma. The DA approached the court in a bid to force the president to immediately set up a commission of inquiry into state capture, as per the recommendations of the former public protector Thuli Madonsela. The Democratic Alliance wants the High Court to force the president to comply with Madonsela's findings because he did not apply for a stay of execution before he took the remedial action on judicial review. Zuma has asked the court to review the remedial action. Meanwhile, Chief Justice Mogoeng has challenged South Africans to think about the impact of racial tensions on future generations. Now, he was delivering the annual Brown Fisher lecture at the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg. Mogoeng called on South Africans to work together and set aside their differences. But it was the love of money and misuse of power that he criticized strongly, saying it made human life not matter anymore. He said citizens need to reflect on the traits of anti-apartheid activists such as Brown Fisher to take the country forward. He also encouraged citizens to propose strategies that do not exclude specific races in addressing issues of land restitution. Now we'll take a short break and we'll be right back after that. It
It is 6 p.m. Central African Time, broadcasting live from Johannesburg. This is Primetime News.
South Africa said farewell to one of the Rivonia trialists, Uncle Kathy, a fearless stalwart.
With this man who was so engaged, so busy, so witty, so funny, so wise, and so incredibly principled.
Joseph Shabalala has been honored for his contribution to the South African music industry. A statue in his honor was unveiled during an annual gala dinner in Ladysmith.
The shot of the day, however, belonged to American Daniel Berger, who chipped in for an eagle on the par 4 fifth hole.
For all your news updates, stay on Primetime News every Saturday and Sunday from 6 p.m.
The Pan-African Parliament, as a legislative body, could go a long way in continuing to promote women's rights in all African member states.
Moon will be elected president. A decisive win by him will provide much-needed stability in South Korea.
The Deputy President and the SADC Oversight Committee have been mandated to convene a multi-stakeholder national dialogue before elections.
5 teams are trapped in the relegation mud. These include Bloemfontein Celtic, 12th on the log, followed by Chipa United, Free State Stars and Baroka, who are second from the bottom, as well as Highlands Park, who have won only 4 matches.
We're on point with breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune in to Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
Welcome back. As we continue, the Minister of Police has relaunched the recently bolstered tactical response and tracking teams. Now, the teams have been reinforced with necessary skills and resources to provide professional and effective service to create a safe and secure environment. Sipho Stierman spoke to the Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula.
We are relaunching because we are intensifying our efforts in the fight against crime. In the township and everywhere else in the suburbs in South Africa. Our target is Gauteng. And like I said, that we mean business. So the deployment is going to be to the most affected and dangerous areas in the country. And smoking out criminals where they are found in the dangerous communities of South Africa.
All right. In the past, when they were first launched by the former police commissioner Bekele, there were some elements of rogue operations by the TRT. Some people saying that they were a bit heavy-handed in the townships. So will that change this time around? Is that something that you are wary of?
General Cruiser?
Well, I think the units are trained to deal with medium and high-risk activities, as we know, hijacking, CITs, and there were small elements, but majorly they had a massive impact, and communities which is under siege in terms of violence are actually calling for them to come back and ensure. So we have refocused them and in terms of the threats which is based in Gauteng at the moment. So they have a very clear mandate to deal with the issue of medium to high risk crime and deal with it effectively and efficiently.
All right. So, what new skills have they they've attained? Have they been retrained? What's new? What are they bringing to the table that's a bit different from 2009?
Well, the skills are the same, but we're now focusing based on the threats. We've analyzed what the threats are in Gauteng, and we've briefed them and trained them to deal with the specific threats. So they focus. They're not just in the broad base. They would know if they go to Tembisa, this is the particular threats around trio crimes. So they would know how to deal with that issue and respond to those sort of criminals itself.
Minister, obviously you mentioned in Parliament that you wanted to bring the Amabarete back. Just talk to us. What has been the response from since you made that announcement? Are the communities calling for them?
Well, communities are very excited about that, and it is the communities themselves who said that bring them back and ensure that we squeeze the space for criminality. And we intensify the tactical response for our law enforcement agencies. So Amapareta are closing that particular gap. And we ourselves are very much excited, and we're going to intensify, even including the numbers on the ground, to ensure that we nail them down. It's not only Amapareta that we're bringing back the tracing teams, all the wanted criminals, wherever they are. Like I've said, whatever they do, they must know that we'll find them.
Here we come, and that's why we're conducting this poll. We want to find out from you. Are you excited, as the minister indicated, about the Amabareta? Will the reintroduction of the tactical response and the tracking teams help really decrease crime? That's the question we pose to you. 185 votes in. 31% of you are saying, no, it will not assist in bringing down crime. But 69% are saying, yes, they're very excited about Amabareta. Now, let's take a look at what you are telling us. Andrew says, nope, because the very same cops are working with the criminals. Mob justice is the solution. Andrew is going in a different direction altogether. Well, let me know what's on your mind. We'll read those comments as we continue, so keep on voting. But on the question of the day, that's our focus for this morning. We focus on violence and racial tensions in schools, and we're asking you, why is there so much violence in our schools? Why is there so much violence in our schools? That's the question. Let us know what's on your mind. Let's start that conversation with Yeba.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jarvis. Very good morning to you. I think it's something that we all know, it affects us all. In one of the shocking latest ones, a 17-year-old pupil was killed by a 16-year-old outside of school in Ntamdlope near Escort in KwaZulu-Natal recently. Police said the incident happened outside the gate of the Tlatikulu High School in the Ntamdlope area. Now, it's believed that the deceased was a pupil at the same school. Police are also investigating a case of murder and the possession of a dangerous weapon. The Mercury reported last month about concerns about this spike in violence at schools in KwaZulu-Natal. This included assaults by pupils on other pupils, pupils on teachers, and incidents of corporal punishment and sexual assaults on pupils by teachers. Early in August, a shocking video of a schoolgirl being violently assaulted by a male pupil at the Sia Tutuka High School in Inanda, north of Durban, emerged on Twitter as well. Now, we are joined by the KwaZulu-Natal's Department of Education HOD, Dr. Vusumuzi Nzama, from our studios in Durban. A very good morning to you, Dr. Nzama, and thank you for being with us.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners at home.
Doctor, just give us your views on this perceived spike of violence and violence incidents at schools in KwaZulu-Natal particularly.
Thank you very much. Yes, I must agree that violence in our schools has become a problem and has an effect on the teaching and learning programs. But it comes in different forms. Sometimes it's a violence that has started outside the school premises. Sometimes it's as a result of the faction fights, or it's a sort of come into school premises as a result of the clashes amongst the students themselves or between the students themselves. And that also, this violence is sometimes directed to teachers, or is directed to other students or learners at school level. It's something that is really has an effect on our program, especially the teaching and learning programs. It does affect that. But the real cause of this violence can be twofold. One, learners who are, when come to schools, bring weapons along, and then some would then feel provoked because of situations that are beyond their control, as it happened at Esikaweni in Richards Bay Secondary School, where learners had to fight amongst themselves within the school premises. And those clashes are sometimes not known to the teachers. They come as a result of the clash or clashes amongst the students themselves. And that's why, it then necessitates that teachers have to come in, principals, SGBs, ourselves, the community, and intervene. And it has now spread into a number of schools. The second problem is that of the faction fights, where learners come to schools with those grudges, and then they will then continue with the fight that has started outside the school premises, which becomes so hard and difficult for the principal and school management to manage that situation, because at the time when it started, it was far from school premises. And then the third one being that of the learners who come to school, but sometimes do not listen to their teachers, listen and be able to learn without, provoking educators. That's why I'm saying the violence in KZN comes in a number of different ways. And as a result, teachers, when they are to intervene, they are attacked, as it happened in one of our schools in Ladysmith, where 2 teachers were stabbed by students. They are attacked, and that causes also instability. And teachers then become afraid of coming closer to the learners. As a result, intervention programs, much as they are given to these learners, counseling and all that, are not of great assistance, because the issue is about the way these learners have been brought up, and also the way they have been taught from home, so that at school they are expected to behave in a certain way. KZN does have this problem of number of schools with learners who are bring weapons into school premises, and then make sure that they either provoke other learners or they provoke the teachers themselves.
Do you say that parents are not active in the lives of children academically and in teaching them about the issues around violence and respect?
I wouldn't say so. I would say some parents are not directly involved in the learning, teaching and learning of their children. Some do. What is difficult is that when a child leaves home in the morning, he or she carries a bag. You don't know what is contained in that bag. And the parents will have a responsibility to check if there is no weapon being carried by the child at that particular time. And if the parent is not active in terms of checking with the child, engaging the child at home before the child leaves home, it then becomes so hard for a teacher at school level to know and to also control that particular child. Some parents are directly involved in the teaching and learning of their children.
Yeah.
Some are not. So it's difficult to say all of them. I would say yes, they are involved, but at a very low scale.
Yeah.
Because bulk of these learners are not being given clear direction.
What about exam season that is now upon us? Are we ready for exams?
KZN has made a lot of preparations. From the beginning of the year, we introduced the Provincial Academic Improvement Plan, and there has been a lot of development in terms of teachers being given capacity building in terms of content knowledge and methodologies. Learners have been given support, study guides, teaching and learning has been in full force throughout the year, writing common tests, half-yearly exams, providing interventions with Saturday classes, morning classes. Learners are adequately prepared for these exams, and that also the department has prepared itself thoroughly in terms of the administration of exams. So we have done it in 2 ways, the preparation of learners and the preparation of the department itself to manage exams. So we are confident that we are on board and we are waiting for the exams, and we'll do well this year.
Just quickly, Doctor, you've got 30 seconds to talk to me about racism in schools. Are you happy that you've got a handle on racism in schools in KwaZulu-Natal?
I'm not happy at all. In a number of schools, the question of racism is still a dominant factor. It is a problem, especially in schools where there is mixed and also mixed two different learners coming from different backgrounds. It's a serious problem, and I can tell you that the control and the manner it's managed is not satisfactory as far as I'm concerned, because I'm receiving a number of cases of racism, teachers being also not being able to control it, to manage it, and some cases being the manner they are managed is such that there is no transparency, there is no strong control. It does have a detrimental effect in terms of the teaching and learning in a number of schools, racism is still a serious issue.
Doctor, thank you very much for your contribution on Newsroom today.
Problem, honestly.
That's the HOD, KZN Education, Dr. Vuzumuzi Nzama, telling us he's not happy with the levels of violence and he's not happy with issues of racism within schools. And that's our question of the day. Why is there so much racial tension and violence in our school? Is the question what we put to you. What are you guys telling us on our Twitter pages right now at SABC Newsroom? Of course, that's where you interact with this issue. But what is being tweeted, guys? This one from Kevin Mart. He says to us, Newsroom, children's behavior a reflection of what's happening at home and in their society. Conflict management styles in society need to change. Nice tweet there, on point. Yes, parents, we need to make a contribution as well. Musi Mokotlani, he says to us, Newsroom, school kids misunderstood the abolition of corporal punishment, and some parents have abandoned their duty to discipline their kids. Sad. Yes, a lot of light is being shunned towards the parents today. Newsroom says Siafana, Dal Park Primary School, I think there's not enough security. Klipspruit West, he talks about. Yes, all the schools are complaining that the fences are broken, there's no security, kids can come with all kinds of weapons, gangsters can come onto the schools. It is an escalating problem that needs to be dealt with. Let's have a look at what's happening in the world of social media right now. What are the hashtags? And we'll start with the one that says hashtag grade 2, following the confiscation of a loaded gun. Can you believe this? From a grade 2 pupil at a primary school here in Brakpan, east of Johannesburg. It's believed that the pupil had threatened to shoot a schoolmate. Grade 2 is the hashtag. Can you believe it? A 7-year-old with a gun at school. I would like to talk to the father personally. Anyhow, one person died yesterday when a helicopter crashed in the Strand, Luandle to be exact, just outside of Cape Town next to the N2 there. It's believed that the helicopter may have crashed into some power lines there. That's a hashtag helicopter crash. Then in Indonesia, smoke has been spotted coming from the volcano on Mount Agung. For the past week, authorities have raised the highest volcano alert there. Around 135,000 people near the volcano have now been evacuated. It's called Bali Volcano. I've got some friends there on holiday who are also on their way back home. Then, the great sex icon of the 21st century, Hugh Hefner, will be laid to rest next to the iconic Marilyn Monroe. After his great admiration for the actress and model, he bought a spot next to her grave in 1992 for $75,000 US. That was about R1 million in today's money. Back then, probably 10 million rand today. The hashtag is Hugh Hefner, and well, his mortal remains will be lying next to that of Marilyn Monroe. Not too shabby, I would say. Anyhow, let's take a look at our picture of the day. This one comes from Cricket South Africa. It's the official CSA, and it's captioned from winning the 2014 ICC Under-19 World Cup together to making their test debut together. The story continues, talking about Andile Petlokwayo and Aiden Markram. That's the future of South African cricket. Right there, we are told. Now, for our comment of the day. This one comes from Zanela Madiba, and she says, rapists are not always scary monsters with guns. Sometimes rapists are our brothers, partners, uncles, friends, and faves. Think about that, because that is the truth, right there. We go to the courts now. Here in Johannesburg, we start with the sentencing of the ringleader of a Johannesburg building hijack syndicate is expected to take place in the magistrate's court. The accused is implicated in hijacking more than 10 buildings, and it's believed that he fraudulently sold Angus mansions for 3.5 million rand around 5 years ago. Then, in Durban, the trial of 27 members of the Hawks unit based at Cato Manor is set to start today at the Durban High Court there. They're facing more than 100 charges, including racketeering and murder. Then, in Bloemfontein, the Supreme Court of Appeal is expected to hand down a judgment in the Vuyo Mvoko and SABC matter. Of course, this relates to his dismissal. Yeah, he was part of the SABC 8 if you can't remember who Vuyomboko is. Now, we'll keep you updated as to what happens in the court case in Bloemfontein. Looking forward to Monday? Well, we're looking on Eskom's tariff hikes. Yep, the utility, well, they are expected, or well, they in the process of wanting to increase electricity rates by a further 19.9% from the middle of next year. Now, if you didn't know, our electricity prices more than doubled in the last 5 years alone. And we're all feeling the pinch, no doubt. So, Monday, on this very show, I'll take it forward and talk about that, and come here and make your contribution there. Time for us to take a break. When we come back, Steve Mabona is here to tell us what do we do with these children that carry guns to the schools. He's right here. He's looking smart. As you can see, he's going to face the music with Albert shortly. Don't miss it.
We pump up your energy, keeping you in action through sports updates while resting at home. This is what's happening in your world of sports every weekend.
In the second half, Kolisi and Jaco Kriel combined well, and Kolisi scored his second try. He was also named man of the match.
Confusion from the West defenders gifted Batosi with a close-range goal.
In the 10th round, he pinned a visibly fatigued McGregor on the ropes and hammered the Irishman before the referee stepped in to stop the bout.
He's a tough competitor. He's a lot more experienced, especially in the layer.
Keep it locked on Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday at 20:30.
What guides us? What leads us forward? Is it the words of our sacred texts? Is it the actions of our people? Or the voices of our citizens? Your country is guided by the voices of its people, and your broadcaster is dependent on your voice to guide it. Get your copy of the SABC's editorial policy and have your say.
Our focus is on violence as well as racism in schools. Now, a loaded gun was confiscated from a grade 2 pupil at a primary school in Brakpan here in Gauteng. And then the family of a deputy principal was shot and killed at Edin Kleba, the primary school in Duduza on the Gauteng's East Rand. They've expressed deep shock. The suspects entered the school premises under the pretense that they had an appointment to fix an electric fault. As the deputy principal came out of his office to inquire about their visit, he was shot several times. He died on the scene. Gauteng MEC for Education, Panyasi Lesufi, says that he's concerned about the rise in murders in Gauteng schools. Now, for more on the story, we're joined here in studio by the Gauteng Education spokesperson, Mr. Steve Mabona. Mr. Mabona, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning.
Now, we spoke to the KZN HOD of Education in KZN a little bit earlier, and he says that violence and racial tensions are on the increase in KZN. Here in Gauteng, do we witness the same?
Definitely. It's quite concerning. The violence is on a, skyrocketing now. It's quite concerning for us as a department. But we are saying, I think the members of the community need to work with us. Let's identify all those culprits and make sure that we bring them into the prisons. Because in the communities, we know who are responsible for all the activities or the criminal activities that are happening in our areas. I mean, like, for instance, the incident that occurred at Dalingeba, where a principal was shot dead. That school is within the community. It's not a school that is far-flanked from the houses. it's very close to people. So, I mean, nowhere where an incident of that nature can happen. So many shots fired, but then we can't even identify, you know, the suspect. So it's quite alarming, you know, the way it's going. I mean, we had about 3 of our guards or security personnel at the schools, different schools, where they were shot and our smart boards were taken. And we were saying, if you enter into our premises and probably you want to access a smart board, that smart board, it's redundant when it's not in our environment. We're not going to use it. So it's a futile exercise. So all those criminal elements, they really need to be brought to book. And we need the members of the community to work with us, make sure that we spread the message, and the police then will then have to do their work.
Now, 2 years ago, the South African Council of Educators, the chairperson there, Veronica Hofmeester, said that during the South African Democratic Teachers Union seminar on violence in schools, she said that South Africa was ranked 2nd highest in the world in relation to school violence. So what are then some of the challenges that we face in this country and specifically in Gauteng when it relates to violence in schools?
Look, it's quite concerning. Hence, the MEC has indicated that probably we didn't look at the security around the schooling environment. Do we have enough police visibility? Or if we were to change the way we have to do things. I mean, the schools that we are building now, they have all amenities. They have your cameras. They have all your security features. So probably we need to go back and work on all the schools that are old. How do we improve the security features there? Because we can see that the violence is on an increment, so we really need to make sure that we are ready. But then we are saying we need to work together with the members of the community because we know who are the perpetrators. So why can't we then say, these are the perpetrators, blow the whistle, and we bring them to book? Because we are saying as education, our responsibility is education. We can't be putting resources into the security, neglecting our main role of making sure that we have more teachers, because we need more teachers than security personnel. But with this rate, we then need to relook at empowering all the schools, making sure that their security is par. But it's a concerning.
Violence in schools with children taking guns to schools. And we've seen children fighting on the school premises. But it seems like the pupils has also lost perhaps the consequences that they will face in relation to what they would face at school and with the teachers. Does it seem though that our pupils has lost respect for our teachers on the ground?
Look, we'll take it back to parenting. It seems like we are now shifting the goalpost when coming to parenting. When a child is ill-disciplined from the household, it will be difficult for that child to be managed at school. Hence, some of the parents will say, no, I cannot manage this child. The child will be managed at school. It's quite impossible because now a teacher is stifled in a way that teachers are there to teach. They might be role models, they might be imparting knowledge, there might be an expectation that at some point there will be some kind of parenting that will happen, but you can't take the entire responsibility and apportion on them as teachers. We need to make sure that as parents, we make sure that our children are disciplined, because hence we are saying all the code of conduct in our schooling environment, parents must participate. If the code of conduct is outdated, we need to make sure that we update it and make sure that the code of conduct talk to us, talk to the current situation, talk to today, not in the well-behaved environment or the environment where we come from, where, when we were at school, we were beaten, but then you can't really condone that and say people must be assaulted, because that is outlawed.
Now, we're talking about two issues this morning, violence in school as well as racism within schools. Klipspruit West is one of the schools that you had some problems with. Has that been resolved? How far is it, and what is the situation on the ground right now?
Definitely, we had a fruitful meeting yesterday with the stakeholders before we went then to the parents. We updated the parents to say these security measures that we took implemented at the school, they are not for educators, because they were saying, yes, you now listen to SADU, you are saying the teachers must come back and you have uplifted the security. We said, no, 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 security is for everyone. We are saying each and everyone must know their responsibility at school. If you are a teacher, you need to go and teach. A learner must learn. SGB must do their responsibility. Anyone who has no business at school, you don't need to go there. If you are bringing your child, drop off, and then move away. We don't want a situation whereby access control, it's compromised to an extent that teachers don't feel safe, learners don't feel safe, administrators as well, because you just have people loitering around, coming in and out of the school as they please, and the fence is exposed because it's been stolen. So we are saying we are going to fix the fence, make sure that the school is secured, but we don't need anyone that has nothing to do with the school. So we have updated the parents to say we have appointed an acting principal with 3 officials that will be assisting him, one on governance, management, and making sure that the school is fully functional. But what we pleaded for support from parents was that we are lagging behind at that school, you know, when coming to curriculum. There's some assessments that has not been written. There's some learners that have missed, you know, papers. We are saying we are going to give them an opportunity on the 10th and 11th of October to write those papers. We're not going to chastise them. We're not going to be questioning them, why didn't you write? But we said to parents, encourage them. Now, during this break, they must go back and study. Because when they come back, because we're opening on the 9th, on the 10th and 11th, we're going to be utilizing those days to catch up and make sure that we write. Because we need to give them reports. We need to give them reports, and that process we must do it on the 28th of October. But then we need support from parents. That school must come back to fully functionality. And we told them, parents, that if you are not supporting us, probably we'll then have to shut down the school.
Are all the teachers back at school?
Definitely, all the teachers are back at school, and we are encouraging them to do their work. The interim management that is there is going to make sure that all those teachers that were banking, they're doing their work, the system now is in place. If you don't do your work, we will discipline you, but probably will then be out of the school.
Mr. Mabona, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio.
Thank you.
That was Steve Mabona, Gauteng Education spokesperson, and that's why we're asking you this question on your screen right now. We're talking about violence as well as racial incidents at school. Let us know what's on your mind. Take a look at that question. Let me know on Twitter at SABC Newsroom as well as on the Facebook page. Why is there so much violence and as well as racism in our schools? Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. After that, we continue that discussion with you.
With the stories of abuse from the other 8, but they haven't been ready to pursue any angles. They've offered their support, they've offered the comfort to the 8, and it's been an amazing journey.
It feels like your heart actually literally sunk in your shoes.
It wasn't a long encounter. I think at the time I froze.
The way the criminal justice system deals with sexual violence is problematic. And I don't know, unless there's a fundamental change in many things, the way prosecutors deal with the victim in the matter.
For all investigative insights, stay tuned to Special Assignment every Saturday at 17:30.
All right, we talk about a healthy lifestyle, but what is this healthy lifestyle?
What we're talking about really is you are healthy in those 3 areas of life: body, mind, and soul.
Before you embark on a weight loss journey, rather first speak to your person who has your complete clinical picture.
Ideally, your plate should look like this. Half of your plate should be
fruit and vegetables. A quarter of your plate, starch, quarter protein.
Tell you some of the things that I really enjoy doing for that bottom pouch as well as for cardio. So you do your kicks, you kick back.
Join Health Talk every Saturday for all your health news.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, the Gauteng Education Department has reached an agreement with SATU. Teachers of Klipspruit West Secondary School, south of Johannesburg, they've now returned to work. Parents have been protesting, of course, about, well, what's perceived to be the appointment of a black principal there. The agreement includes teachers who participated in a withdrawal from around 30 schools around the Eldorado Park area in Johannesburg. Now, SATU's Provincial Secretary, Mr. Teliso Ledimo, he's with us in studio, as well as Anthony Williams, who's the president of Patriots of Equality, a civil society group who've been integral in the discussions going on at Klipspruit West. Anthony, if I can start with you. Racial tensions and violence is what we're talking about, and of course the focus at Klipspruit West was very much around racial tensions. Are you still disputing that this was racially motivated? And if you can just contextualize it for us.
I think it's important that we must put context to it. And thanks for the opportunity to just clear the air. There's been a very unfortunate battling in the media that the issue at Klipspruit West Secondary School was racially motivated. It is absolute hogwash. There's no truth to it. Doesn't mean that we don't have a serious racial, discussion that needs to take place. We are of the view that because South Africa has decided to racially categorize people, this is equally, very concerning. We need to look at that. But let's come back to Klipspruit. It was not, and it is not a racial tension. And therefore, we want to call upon media, to desist, sensationalism, and, you peddle this particular thing. The issue at Klipspruit Secondary School was and is that there was a clear-cut violation of processes. And we have uncovered it. It's been made very clear now. And as we go along, and we will see, everybody will see in South Africa, that the issue there is not that the community is racist.
Mr. Ledimo, I'd like to ask you, I spoke to the HOD in KwaZulu-Natal, we've in Gauteng, we've got issues in the Cape where racism seems to be on the rise and violence seems to be on the rise in our schools around the country. But the issue of racism is one that surely must be very concerning. As the teachers' union, how do you view this rise of what is perceived to be racist and racial elements within our schooling?
Good morning, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to discuss this topic, quite an important topic for us and society in general. Look, we subscribe to the Constitution of the country. We're a non-racial organization, and each time we see racism, we get very disturbed. You will recall that prior to the principal appointed, there was action to bar her from assuming duty at the school. Immediately thereafter, there were questions about why bar this person from assuming duties. And of course, we hold a different view from the assertion that there were flaws in the process. After this process, the department effected an appointment, having satisfied itself that the process was fair. After the process, this matter was subjected to an investigation. The investigation did not find any flaws in the process. The matter is now in the office of the Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Angie Motshekga.
Yeah.
To further investigate it and establish whether indeed there were flaws in the process. But other than that, The recruitment policy allows for grievances to be lodged.
Yeah.
When this process was unfolding, no one lodged a grievance. There was a shortlisting, there was no grievance. There was an interview, after the interview there was no grievance. The SGB made a recommendation to the department, there was no grievance. The department appoints, there's a grievance. So we don't agree that the process had flaws. We believe it was above board, and it is our view that the principal must be allowed to assume duties.
For expedience here, I'd have to stop you then. I'd have to ask Anthony to respond to that, but I also want you to talk about how do we resist your response to that, and how do we maintain peace and stability as we head into the final exams?
We don't agree with, Patriots for Equality don't agree with what Satu is saying. There's enough proof that the process was flawed. I'll just give you one example. The SASA Act says, the South African Schools Act says, that a parent must assume the duty as the chairperson of this interview. And this is not what happened. The person who took the chairman role at this particular interview was from the department, Mr. Fabian Kelly. He assumed the responsibility. He took the chairmanship of that particular meeting right there. The process is already flawed. You know, one of the parents that was on the panel is not one of the perceived parents. He's not a parent. So already there's flawed. So we don't understand where, you know, where this thing is coming from, that this thing has got no flaws. Absolutely, we disagree with Satu, that we are not going to, you see, the reason why the grievance came at a much later stage, because the guys sitting at the SGB during the meeting, they didn't even know exactly, you know, what the processes were supposed to be. And when people like ourselves, you know, brought it to their attention, but the process was flawed. And for that reason, we cannot allow that principle, and it's got nothing to do with race there. We can't allow that principle. SATU must speak to the fact of their Operation Fat Alles, which says that principal and deputy principal of positions must be given to black Africans only, exclusively, to the exclusion of colored teachers. We can't sit around here and then we're going to clap hands so that SATU can continue to disrail our schools. We will not allow it. Absolutely not.
Mr. Ledimo, that's a lot to be thrown your way. What do you respond?
Well, let's allow the minister to give us the report. Endless arguments are not going to help us. The matter is with the Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Angie Motshekga. Let's await the report.
Good, we will await the report, but how do we ensure that the children don't suffer with teachers being withdrawn, with exams not being able to be finalized and so forth in the weeks to come? How do we do that? What's your do you put any guarantees forward with regards to that?
No, thanks. I must contest this Operation Fat Alles. It's a concept created by Patriots for Equality.
You've just said you're going to wait for the minister.
There are several principals in that area were colored. In Klipspruit West, there are people in the management of that school who are colored. The two deputies there are colored. So there's no Operation Fat Alles.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that.
What about the children and the exams that are coming? That's what we are concerned about, whether the children will be able to sit for exams without the threats of teachers pulling out.
We're quite concerned. You will recall that last week, a group of residents locked out teachers. Almost half of the teachers were locked out. Quite concerning.
Yeah.
So the disruption comes from that element, not from SATU. It comes from people who initiated a lockout.
Yeah.
No person unauthorized can lock in or lock out workers in a school. People wake up in the morning and they go and lock out teachers from their workstation. It's unacceptable. Yeah. It instills fear in the teachers that if people can walk in and out of schools as they wish and lock in and out workers, it's unbearable.
We've run out of time, sir. You've got only 30 seconds to respond.
What we are saying is we're prepared to sit down with SATU and discuss this issue. But it's equally important for us to make sure that the kids have got an environment of effective teaching and learning. That's where we stand.
Are you going to sit down with them to sort out this problem?
We can work with anybody, including Patriots for Equality, to resolve the matters. It's in the interest of our children, interest of society, to resolve the issues at Klipspruit West.
Gentlemen, that's very big. That's what we want to hear right here on the Newsroom show. We must work together in South Africa to sort out our differences for the benefit of our future generations. It's as simple as that. Children cannot be kept out of schools because adults cannot sit around a table. I thank you for that agreement, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Sure. There you have. That's it on the Newsroom show today. Anthony Williams, the president of Patriots of Equality, they're a civil society group, and of course SATU's Gauteng Secretary, Mr. Tseliso Ledimo. I thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and showing a bit of leadership here today on the Newsroom show. Why do we battle with racial tension and with violence in our schools? We need to come together to sort this stuff out. As you see right here, let's take a look at a couple of your tweets with regards to this issue. The main reason is a lack of discipline. And then we go to the Bible. According to the Proudly Koi Koi, it says, Proverbs 22.6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. There you go. Beautiful words from Scripture this morning. Shakir Baker tells us lack of leadership from all stakeholders in the school environment. Also, the political issue that affect the school environment has an impact. No doubt. No doubt about that. Keep tweeting us and keep telling us. Kendall has just arrived, and of course a big sporting weekend. The Boks are playing, Proteas are playing. The Proteas are about to hit the ground running once again. They really put Bangladesh to the sword yesterday.
Bit more like a saunter, isn't it? I mean, after yesterday, it was pretty much like, look, Bangladesh, please show up. They managed to get a wicket, and that was the unfortunate run out of Aiden Makram after he and Elgar had done superbly well. This is what we're going to be talking about as well in terms of Springboks. But like, you know, it bodes well for South Africa that Aiden Makram has been recognized for the input that he makes and the size that he plays it.
Yeah.
Because this guy is the only World Cup winning coach in
Captain.
I keep saying coaching.
Yeah,
I want to say captain. World Cup winning captain in South Africa's cricket history.
He has the pedigree, no doubt. He's a future Protea captain, and let's hope that he comes through the grades and does well, because we need that new generation, him, Petlekwayo, these kind of guys, to kind of step up now and show that they've got the goods.
Absolutely. There's John Kagiso Rabada now, who's been in the mix as well.
Well, they're just coming out onto the park right now as we talk. But let's come back into studio. Let's talk about a little bit of rugby in Bloemfontein. Yes, we're in Bloemfontein this weekend for the Boks. The Boks have to do the phoenix but rise from the ashes.
It's not so hard against the Wallabies on the Highveld. Australia struggles. We run them off the park every single time we play them on the Highveld. And if you look at what's been happening in Super Rugby just this year, Australia was really nowhere. The Australian teams were nowhere in the Super Rugby. So I'm not expecting anything other than a comprehensive Springbok victory.
Strong words from Kenda Mahamati's comprehensive Springbok victory. Let's hope that he's right, and that when we come back to work on Monday, we are all feeling a little bit better. We'll be back top of the hour, just over a minute and a half to go. We'll see you then. You're watching Newsroom right here on SABC News. It's been a really nice show for me, the last one I'm doing.
Entrepreneurship and taking charge of your own destiny is a mindset, and it's something that should start at a very young age.
I started when I was around about 3 or something, because I have a bunch of paintings in the office. I have a teacher that teaches me and my class how to do business, and he was the one who taught me.
Being an entrepreneur makes you money-wise.
Before everyone spent their money, I would sell the little things I painted, and I'd sell my drawings and stuff like that.
In business, it is important to keep record of all your transactions.
I have a passion and I love making anything, so I chose to make Play-Doh, and I'm passionate about it.
Catch Bupilong every Friday at 17:30.
But today we discuss the general practitioner or GP.
So the quality of the doctors coming through our medical schools is excellent.
Your GP is your family doctor. Your GP is your first point of care.
Who determines how much a consultation fee should be?
is we set up networks of general practitioners, and one of the conditions of the network was to agree to charge a certain fee.
Specialists are specialists. We can't take away their role. We can't take away what they do for each patient in their disease entity.
Our specialist colleagues as well don't appreciate patients coming straight off the street, as it were, to see them. They're highly trained.
For health tips that will help you to adopt healthy living, catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
Welcome back. It's just gone 10 o'clock Central African time. Beautiful day in Johannesburg. It's my last newsroom show. I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic here with Kendall Makamata.
You know, and what a day to be saying goodbye to you on air, Eben. We've got really meaty topics to talk about, and I think it's going to be a show to remember. We're talking about something that's close to both of our hearts. We're talking about what happens in schools, the kind of environment that children find themselves in.
You know, I feel truly blessed because we did our final show, and we kind of do what we do on Newsroom and what we've become known for, and that is bring two arguing parties together. They left the studio and now they are going to sit down with each other. After weeks of fighting, they're going to leave the show and they're going to talk to each other about what is the best for the kids. I feel validated in my work today. I thank you, but we have a lot of work to do because there's a lot of violence and racial tension in our schools, Kendall, and that's our question.
Exactly what Eben is talking about now. I want to find out from you, what are your thoughts on this? Why is there so much violence in our schools? Give us a thought. Give us a tweet or two, as you've been doing the entire morning.
Where are the tweets? Are they there?
Where are the tweets? Do we have any tweets? I would love to share them with the rest of our viewers.
Zolisi says to us, we are surprised. Are we surprised? We are a violent nation. This is a reflection of what we are as a nation. We are reaping what we planted. Yeah, that is tough, firm, but fair.
Yes, and Zolisi carries on saying, currently, without any breakthroughs, people are brutally killed in our country, and those responsible are not held accountable.
Yeah, that takes us to the next question. Of course, we're running a poll. Of course, Minister Bucks has come out and he's saying, Amabarete. We are reintroducing Amabarete, and people are voting on what they are thinking. Will this help, Kendall?
Yeah, will it help decrease crime? Well, 222 votes in already. 71% say yes. An overwhelming majority believe in Amabarete and the efficacy of how they operate.
Minister Bucks, you have support. If you are watching, Minister Mbalula, you have support on this initiative, Amabarete. People want more of these kinds of interventions in our communities because there's a sense that criminals are ruling the roost. But what are people tweeting us?
Yes, let's see what's being tweeted. Vuyo says, Mbalula is just wasting money of the state, doing what's been done and failed, yet he still does it. This is not government. Vuyo not convinced.
What else can we do, Vuyo? Simply where comes and he says, the fact that our media celebrates criminals is a problem. We saw this with the Chili's funeral and the abolishment of the corporal punishment.
Yeah, South Africans are hard to please, but you know what, it's a weighty matter, and you know, not everybody's going to agree all the time.
Yeah. Anyhow, sports on. The Proteas have just gone onto the park. They're 298 for one still in the first over. That match is underway, but we're asking about the opening pair, isn't it? They've hit the ground running, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, they've got us off to a great start. 196 run star opening partnership, and that's what they gave us. And what we've got behind us right now are live pictures from the cricket. I want to find out from you, do you think we've found the opening pair that's going to assist us going forward?
Hashing Amla not out on 68, and he's there with Dean Algo, who's also unbeaten on 128. South Africa 298 for one. That's live pictures coming to you from Potchefstroom right now. However, do we have tweets on that, or let's go straight to the news headlines? We've got tweets.
We do have tweets, and first one we've got, Vuyo Smao comes in again, says, I'm not sure if we can say that. As we all know, Bangladesh doesn't have bowlers that can measure up to our performance.
Hi, Vuyo, you are tough today, nah? It is early to say for that now, says Siafana. A sober view brought to you there, Siafana. Thank you very much. That's the sporting bit for now. We'll keep you updated how matters develop. But let's get into our work. This These are the news headlines. The Pretoria High Court will today hand down judgment in a case brought forward by the Democratic Alliance against President Jacob Zuma. Chief Justice Mogoeng says more efforts should be made to share the wealth between South Africa's races. Then Stats SA says sexual offences, hijackings and murder have increased in the country between 2016 and 17. Those are your top stories at this hour. Let's go to Kendall for the news, sports headlines, rather.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot. Look, it is news. It is news. We're looking forward to exactly what the protests are going to be doing. In fact, what I'd like to do, Eben, before we get into the rest of the headlines, I'd like to take our viewers quickly back to Senvis Park. Yeah. It's day 2 of this first of 2 tests against Bangladesh. And you know what? The Proteas are in charge. Quick commentary. Let's hear what's being said out there right now. Waiting for the delivery of that ball. We'll be bringing you back all this a little bit later again, just to keep you abreast of what's happening on day 2 of this first test against Bangladesh. All right, now we'll be also bringing you a little more about what's happening over the weekend, and this is what else we've got for you in the sports today.
It's exciting, no doubt about that, but definitely a lot of work to be done. We don't actually want to be, conceding points like we have been against New Zealand. We want to be more competitive in that regards.
After a year on the sidelines, veteran Francois Lowe rejoined the hurt Springbok side, who have it all to do to redeem themselves when they man up against a weary Wallaby side tomorrow. And Arsenal makes it 2 out of 2 as they ease past Bate Borisov 4-2 in the Europa League group stage match yesterday.
It's given away to Theo Walcott. Awful error, and it's punished clinically by Walcott, but it's a real gift of a goal.
All right, there you have it. All the Gunners fans will be saying, yes, there's hope still for us this season. A little bit more about all of that a little later. Do stay with Eben as he's got the news.
Yeah, thank you, Kendall. Very good morning to you. If you have just joined us, you're watching Newsroom right here on SABC News. And our top story right now is that the Pretoria High Court should shortly hand down judgment in the case brought forward by the Democratic Alliance against President Jacob Zuma. Now, the DA approached the court in a bid to force the president to immediately set up a commission of inquiry into state capture as per the recommendation of former public protector Thuli Madonsela. The DA wants the High Court to force the president to comply with Madonsela's findings because he did not apply for a stay of execution before he took remedial action on judicial review. Now, the president has asked the court to review this remedial action. I can't tell you that it is live right now in the High Court. Let's go there.
In the event of it is being opposed and seeks further alternative relief. The first application is dated the 23rd of March 2017. The second application is dated the 12th of June 2017. It is convenient at this stage to briefly set out the facts and events that led to the 2 applications. On the 2nd of November 2016, the public protector released a report about a complaint laid by the applicant and others in connection with the relationship between the president and the Gupta family, including other persons connected to institutions controlled by the government. The report is titled The State of Capture. It needs mentioning that the release of that report itself was not without difficulties. The process was finally resolved when a court order was granted to the public protector to release that report. In the report, the public protector directed the president to appoint a commission of inquiry within 30 days to be headed by a judge selected by the Chief Justice, and in any case, only one name of the incumbent judge will be provided to the president for appointment. On the 25th of November 2016, the Office of the President announced that the President intended to institute a review proceedings against the remedial action prescribed by the Public Protector. On the 28th of November 2016, the applicant's attorneys, in responding to that announcement, addressed a letter directly to the President and said the following in paragraphs 6 and 7. I quote, "The Democratic Alliance notes your intention to review the Public Protector's report and remedial action as is your right. However, you are required to comply with it within 30 days. Neither an intention to launch a review nor launching the review itself will absolve you of the obligation to comply with the Public Protector's remedial action. Unless you obtain an interim interdict staying the Public Protector's remedial action pending the outcome of your review, you are obliged to comply, notwithstanding any attempt to review her remedial action. I therefore write to advise you that unless you obtain an interim interdict entitling you not to comply with the Public Protector's remedial action by 2nd December 2016, the DA will approach the appropriate court on an urgent basis to compel you to comply. In addition, the DA will seek a declarator that you have again failed to comply with your constitutional obligation in terms of Section 83B of the Constitution, read with Sections 181 in brackets 3 and 182(1)(c). If you intend to obtain such an interdict, please inform me at your earliest action." On the 1st of December 2016, the State Attorney advised the applicant attorneys that the President will launch his review application by the 2nd of December 2016 and will cite all relevant and interested parties. On receipt of that letter, applicant's attorneys wrote back to the State Attorney, and in that letter they said the following, quote, You indicated that your instructions are that the President will be launching his review on 2nd December 2016 to all relevant parties. Your attention is drawn to the matter of the City of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality versus AfriForum and another. It is not sufficient to merely launch a review of the Public Protector's report, but your client must obtain a court order determining the review application prior to 2nd December 2016 in order to suspend his obligation to comply with the Public Protector's remedial action. As promised, the President launched his review application on the 2nd of December 2016 and cited all the relevant interested parties. It is common cause that the review application is set down to be heard in this court on the 23rd and 24th of October 2016. Notwithstanding service of the application to review, the applicant opted to launch their own application on the 5th of December 2016, seeking exclusive and direct access to the Constitutional Court with the aim to ask the Constitutional Court to declare that the President had violated his obligations in terms of the Constitution by failing to comply with the Public Protector's remedial action in not appointing a Commission of Inquiry as set out in paragraphs 8.4 of the Public Protector's report. The President opposed that application. The second respondent, being the Public Protector, filed a notice to abide. On the 8th of February 2017, the Constitutional Court dismissed that application. The order of the Constitutional Court reads as follows, I quote, The Constitutional Court has considered the application for direct access. It has concluded that the application should be dismissed as it is not in the interest of justice to hear the matter at this stage. Close quotation. It was shortly after the dismissal of the application in the Constitutional Court that the applicant launched their application to compel compliance with paragraph 8.4 of the remedial action taken by the Public Protector. It is the application that I have referred to as the first application in paragraph 1 of this letter. Pleadings became closed in the President's review application, case number 91139 of 2016, as well as in the first application. The applications were case managed by the Deputy Judge President and directives were issued. It was on the 12th of June 2017 when it became clear that the applicants were not conceding that the launching of the review application suspends the operation of the Public Protector's remedial action, that the President, on advice, launched the conditional count application. It is the application that I referred to as the second application in paragraph 2 above. The public protector is not opposing the application by the Democratic Alliance to compel compliance with the remedial action. A notice to abide was filed on the 18th of May 2017. However, on receipt of the President's conditional counter-application, the public protector filed a notice to oppose and has filed an answering affidavits as well as heads of argument. The remedial action. The full text of the public protector's remedial action, which she argues was taken in pursuit of Section 182(1)(c) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, reads as follows, and it is addressed to the President. I quote, to the President. 8.4. The President to appoint within 30 days a commission of inquiry headed by a judge solely selected by the Chief Justice, who shall provide one name to the President. 8.5. The National Treasury to ensure that the commission is adequately resourced. 8.6. The judge to be given the power to appoint his or her own staff and to investigate all the issues is using the record of this investigation and the report as a starting point. 8.7. The Commission of Inquiry to be given powers of evidence collection that are no less than that of the public protector. 8.8. The Commission of Inquiry to complete its task and to present the report with findings and recommendations to the President within 180 days. The President shall submit a copy with an indication of his or her intention regarding the implementation to Parliament within 14 days of releasing the report. 8.9. Parliament to review within 180 days the Executive Members' Ethics Act to provide better guidance regarding the integrity, including avoidance and management of conflict of interest. This should clearly define responsibilities of those in authority regarding a proper response to whistleblowing and whistleblowers. Consideration should also be given to a transversal code of conduct for all employees of the state. 8.10. The President to ensure that the Executive Ethics Code is updated in line with the review of the Executive Members' Ethics Act. 8.11. The Public Protector, in terms of Section 64C(1) of the Public Protectors Act, brings to the notice of the National Prosecuting Authority and the DPCI those matters identified in this report where it appears crimes have been committed. Close quotation. The remedial action taken by the Public Protector as set out in 8.5, 8.6 and 8.8 are all dependent on remedial action 8.4. If 8.4 falls away, the rest follow. However, it would seem to me that the remedial action taken in 8.9, 8.10 and 8.11 have nothing to do with the appointment of the Commission of Inquiry. They are independent remedial actions to be dealt with by different institutions. It is therefore not surprising that the applicant in the first application is seeking primarily an order directing the President to comply with remedial action 8.4. Prayers 2 and 3 of the applicant's notice of motion are inseparable and represent the main order that applicant seeks. In the conditional counter application, the President seeks a stay of the implementation of the remedial action as set out in 8.4 of the report. The issues. The crisp and sharp points of dispute between the parties are the following. 1. Whether the President's application in case number 91139/16 to review the Public Protector's remedial action has the automatic effect of staying implementation of the remedial action. 2. In the event that this court finds that the review application does not have the effect of automatically putting on hold or suspending implementation of the remedial action, whether the President is entitled to the relief in the conditional counter application for a stay of the implementation of the remedial action pending the outcome of the review application. At the center of the dispute in the review application are the constitutional powers and obligations of the President vis-à-vis the Constitutional Court's finding in the matter of economic freedom fighters versus Speaker of the National Assembly and others, 2017 in Volume 3, 580 Constitutional Court. In short, the applicants argue that that decision referred to as the famously now referred to as the Nkandla decision concluded that remedial actions by the public protector are binding and should be implemented. The applicant also relied to a large extent on the decision of the Constitutional Court in the matter of Tshwane City versus AfriForum and another 2016 SA 279, also a Constitutional Court matter. In its contention that an application for review does not result in the automatic suspension of the remedial action. The applicant says that what is required is an interdict or a stay application. It is not surprising that prior to in the applicant's notice of motion is worded in precisely the same terminology as the order granted by the Constitutional Court in the Ngandla decision, which reads as follows, I quote, "The remedial action taken by the public protector against President Jacob Zuma in terms of Section 181(2)(c) of the Constitution is binding," close quotation. Prayer 4 of the application also mirrors the wording in the order of the Ngandla decision, which reads as follows, I quote, "The failure by the President to comply with the remedial action taken against him by the public protector in a report of 19 March 2014 is inconsistent with Section 83B of the Constitution, read with Section 181(3) and 182(1)(c) of the Constitution as invalid," close quotation. Before I deal with the issues before me, I deem it appropriate to refer to a paragraph in the Ngandla decision at page 609, being paragraph 71, which reads as follows, I quote, "In sum, the public protector's powers to take appropriate remedial action is wide, but certainly not unfettered. Moreover, the remedial action is always open to judicial scrutiny," close quotation. It is also not inflexible in its application, but situational. And at paragraph 74, the court emphasizing the fact that decisions, although binding, are not immune from judicial scrutiny, said the following, I quote, "This is so because our constitutional order hinges also on the rule of law. No decision provided in the Constitution or law may be disregarded without recourse to a court of law. To do so would amount to a license to self-help." In the review application as well in his answering affidavit to the application to compel compliance, the President has raised pertinent and crucial constitutional issues which can be summarized as follows. 1. That the remedial action directing the President to appoint a commission of inquiry is dictatorial and offends a separation of powers doctrine which is part of our rule of law. 2. That Section 84(2)(f) of the Constitution grants exclusive and executive powers to the President and no one else to appoint commissions of inquiry. 3. That no arm of government can constitutionally intrude into the sphere of the other unless authorized by the Constitution. 4. That the remedial action is inconsistent with the Constitution and accordingly invalid. In the matter of City of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality versus AfriForum and another, AfriForum had obtained an interdict preventing the City of Tshwane from replacing the old street names in Tshwane with new names. That interdict was granted pending the review application brought by AfriForum to review the city's decision. The City of Tshwane held the view that the interim interdict should not prevent it from carrying out its decision and thus filed an appeal against the granting of the interim interdict. The full court of this division dismissed the appeal, so did the Supreme Court of Appeal. The city then petitioned the Constitutional Court for direct access to appeal the decision of the High Court. That matter was finally decided on the basis that AfriForum had not satisfied the requirements for an interim interdict to be granted in their favor. Hence, the appeal was upheld and Tshwane was permitted to continue the name changes, notwithstanding the pending review application. There is a distinction between the issues and the facts in the City of Tshwane versus AfriForum matter and what is in issue in the present matter. It must be recalled that in the City of Tshwane versus AfriForum matter, AfriForum issued its first interdict when the city suspended, and when the city suspended the idea of the name changes, AfriForum did not launch a review application. It was only after 7 months, when nothing was happening, that when the city recommenced with the name changes, that AfriForum then filed a fresh interdict. In dealing with the aspect of AfriForum, having failed to prove that it will suffer irreparable harm if the interdict was not granted, the Constitutional Court held that irreparable harm implied that the effect of the harm could not be reversed. The Constitutional Court found that the review court could reinstate the old names if AfriForum was successful. The irreparable harm referred to in the AfriForum matter cannot, in my view, be compared to the irreparable harm that will follow should I conclude that the remedial action should be implemented, notwithstanding the pending review application. It must be kept in mind that at all times that what the President is asking for in the review application is that remedial action 8.4 be set aside on the basis that it is unconstitutional, it is dictatorial, and usurps the powers that vest in the President only. That application strikes at the very heart of the powers of the Public Protector and the extent to which a remedial action is authorized and circumscribed by the Constitution. It is significant to note that the Public Protector is not opposing the review application, but has filed an application opposing the application to stay the implementation application. The Public Protector, in her affidavit opposing the stay, says no more than that the President, as well as other ANC leaders, have at various platforms indicated that he is not opposed to setting up a commission of inquiry, but not on the terms as dictated to by the Public Protector. When the Constitutional Court refused to hear the DA's application during February 2017, it was aware that a review application had been launched. It is therefore not surprising that the Constitutional Court said that it was not in the interest of justice to hear the matter at that stage. In my view, the Constitutional Court implied that the review application must be dealt with and finalized before the President could be compelled to comply with the remedial action set out in 8.4. The Public Protector considered at paragraph 5 of her answering affidavit, the Public Protector considered at paragraph 5 of her answering affidavit to the stay application and said that this court has a discretion to stay the remedial action pending the determination of review if this court is satisfied that it is in the interest of the court to do so. In my view, it will not be in the interest of justice to direct the President to implement the remedial action prior to the review court having finalized the constitutional dispute raised by the President. I say that it will not be in the interest of justice because once the President appoints such a commission of inquiry, or even before he does so, he will be entitled to challenge the decision compelling him to do the appointment. This will result in parallel procedures based on the same issues, namely the review and the appeal against my decision. In my view, it will not only be a waste of resources, but may very well amount to abuse of legal process. Secondly, I inquired from applicants' counsel that what will happen to the Commission if the review court sets aside the impugned remedial action? I did not get a clear answer, save to say that it will stop the function. I am not told what will happen to the decisions that the Commission may have already taken. The Commission may have incurred expenses in setting up offices, issued subpoenas to witnesses, and called for written submissions. In my view, it will not be in the interest of justice at this stage to compel the President to implement the remedial action. In the recent unreported matter between South African Reserve Bank versus Public Protector and 5 others, case number 43769/17, a judgment by my brother Murphy, dated the 15th of August 2017, the court had to deal with the challenge by the Reserve Bank against the remedial action taken by the Public Protector. At paragraph 9 of that judgment, the court said the following, I quote, despite initially opposing the application, the Public Protector filed an answering affidavit in which she considered the merits and consented to all the relief sought. She has agreed that her remedial action is unlawful in that only Parliament has the power to amend the Constitution and that she has no power to dictate to Parliament. Close quotation. The question to be asked is if that is what she said recently about Parliament, will her view be different when it is the President who claims the sole constitutional authority to appoint a commission of inquiry? That question will have to be answered on the 23rd of October 2017 in this court. The applicant has failed to demonstrate what prejudice or harm will befall it if the President does not appoint a commission of inquiry now, 10 months after the report by the Public Protector. Nothing has happened in the last 10 months. It will therefore not make any difference if the commission is appointed after the review shall have been heard, should the President fail in his application to set aside the remedial action. In the matter of the MEC for Health, Eastern Cape and another versus Careland Investments, the court held that when an administrator errs, those decisions exist and have legal effect until set aside on review. The review application raises important legal and constitutional issues and is a matter of great public interest on which this court still has to pronounce itself, and accordingly, to compel the President at this stage will not only be tantamount to deny him a hearing or his day in court, but it may also be understood to mean that the Public Protector's powers are unassailable irrespective of the content of a decision. That cannot be correct. In my view, it is immaterial whether the review application suffices to stay the applicant's application to compel or whether an order shall be granted as per the conditional counter application. The result will be the same. The applicant is being technical by insisting that the application to stay should have preceded the application to review. Interlocutory applications can be brought at any time during the proceedings. In summarizing the opposition to the granting of the conditional counter application, the DA considered that the standard for a stay application is the same as a standard for an interim interdict and rely on the decision of City of Tshwane versus Forum, also on the decision of International Trade Administration Commission versus SCORE South Africa, PTY Limited 2010, and lastly on the decision of National Treasury and others versus Opposition to Urban Tolling Alliance and others. In the outer matter, National Treasury and others versus outer, the then Deputy Chief Justice Musene, in granting National Treasury leave to appeal the decision of the High Court, made the following remarks at paragraph 22. I quote, I am of the view that the pending judicial review raised at least two constitutional issues. The review has been brought under Section 6 of the Promotion of Administration Justice Act No. 3 of 2000, a statute enacted to give effect to the right to just administrative action guaranteed by the Constitution. Secondly, the review poses the question whether the relief sought entails an improper trespass on the exclusive domain of the executive. Similarly, in the appeal before us, the prominent issue is whether the grant of an interim interdict has impermissibly trenched upon the constitutional tenet of separation of powers. These are constitutional issues of considerable importance. Close quotation. I've kept in mind that in deciding this application, it would be inappropriate for this court to express a view or usurp the functions of the review court. What is of prime importance is the considerable constitutional issues that have been raised, one of which is the aspect of separation of powers. The Constitutional Court in the outer matter, in upholding the appeal, expressed itself strongly on this issue. Lastly, in a unanimous decision of the Constitutional Court in the matter of International Trade Administration Commission versus SCORE, it was held that since the interdict had the effect of curtailing executive power to formulate and implement trade policy and also caused irreparable harm by maintaining anti-dumping duties which would have otherwise ended, leave to appeal had been granted. The court strongly discouraged judicial intrusion on executive domain. In the present matter, the President makes the point that the Public Protector, in taking remedial action 8.4, is intruding on his executive domain. In my view, it will be in the best interest of justice to grant the President a stay of the implementation of the remedial action pending a decision of the review application. In any event, the Democratic Alliance itself makes the point that only a court order will suffice to suspend implementation of the action. In the result, I make the following order. 1. The application by the Democratic Alliance, in which it seeks implementation of the remedial action 8.4 taken by the Public Protector, is hereby stayed pending finalization of the review application under case number 9.1139.16. 2. The applicant, the Democratic Alliance, and the second respondent, public protector, are ordered to pay the cost of this application, which shall include the cost of true counsel. I hand down the judgment.
Today on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new traditional court model.
The idea of the bill is not to overregulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law by its nature is consensual, that I have a right to affiliate, I have a right therefore to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
Hashtag Rights with Dubila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Well, we'll be back at courtside shortly to give you a wrap of what actually was said inside the High Court there. But our schools are a battleground right now, and incidents such as the recent murder of a deputy principal, violence amongst pupils, and severe bullying of pupils are simply indications of the serious problems facing our education sector. Meanwhile, stability has returned to Klipspruit West, the secondary school in Soweto, after an agreement was reached with the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU, that learners from about 30 schools in El Dorado Park would return to work. A little bit earlier, we had, well, Patriots for Equality with SATU, and they said they are now going to go away after talking on the show, and they're going to find alignment to make sure that exams are not affected at this school in the weeks to come. But to analyze matters a little bit, that's the good news. The bad news is Dr. Leonard Martin is with me. He's a social commentator, and he says our problems are much deeper than what we would like to hear.
Good morning. Precisely. I think Klipspruit West should be seen as a microcosm of the deeper and wider problems that cannot be resolved merely by SATU or the Patriots for Equality having an agreement. The issues run much deeper. They run deep in the sense of what is our concept of education and how do we manage human diversity? Out of Klipspruit West, we've, in my view, had very glib allegations of racism, which the media had participated in without a full investigation having taken place. But I think we need to understand that once allegations of racism fly across our schools and the province, in the final analysis, it's the children who suffer from the consequences of not being able to resolve these issues. And I think rather than focus on race, we must understand that these are issues of human diversity which South Africa will not be able to divest itself from in the near future. We are a diverse country, and we have to take up the challenge of how to manage human diversity.
You talk about diversity, and of course, government works very hard with its social cohesion programmings and so forth. But it doesn't seem to have the effects that we need. We're still at the effect of apartheid race labels. I'm called a colored, someone else might be called another label, and so forth and so forth. These labels were designed to divide us. Yes. But we still use them 25 years after democracy. How do we unify this nation? How do we get past this imprinted racial label that we have.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the negative legacies that came out of CODESA when we made the transition from apartheid, that the apartheid categories, and in fact, they are colonial categories that have been reinforced within the context of a democracy in transition. Now, let me hasten to say that, you know, declaring that you are fighting racism does not mean that you have overcome racism.
Yeah.
That's a major distinction. And I think we are saddled with the legacy of what these racial categories or racial formations are. And they run across identity, gender, and class. So we in fact, are left with the challenge of coming up as South Africans with a wholly contextualized, homegrown understanding of multiculturalism. Do we have that in our educational system? Are our children taught that? Is there a relational analysis to move both the schools, the teachers, and our society away from these categories?
That's a discussion that we could have all day. But I want to move it on a little bit, Dr. Martin, because one thing that's concerning me is the fact that at these schools, yes, race is the one element that causes all the issues. The other element is the spike in violence that we see and violent behavior. We just had a 7-year-old taking a gun to school to go and sort out their problem. Is that the language that we are speaking and that we are teaching our children, that whatever, there's always violence that can get you an answer?
I think this is very sad, but it's also a symptom of the fact that there is actually a relational gap in terms of, you know, Elvis, we talk about critical dialogue in our societies. The question is, do we have those critical dialogues?
Yeah.
Because how we train our children to relate, to be connected to each other, is experiencing a huge deficit. Violence in our schools cannot be part of the curriculum. Yeah. It cannot, in fact, lead anywhere except a breakdown in society. So the question again is brought to the door of our political leaders, our institutions, whether we in fact do have the tools, whether the tools are embedded in our pedagogical training from kindergarten onwards up in terms of how to manage the society, because we are facing huge challenges of poverty.
Yeah.
And these will not go away soon. And what is happening in our schools is almost a birthmark of the challenges facing our society.
So you are saying it's not the question that we have a failing schooling system or a society in crisis. It's a question that these two factors are kind of confluencing in a little bit, and then we have other elements like rampant inequality, corporate gangsterism, and all these kinds of things that are tapping into this and creating these crises that we see.
Well, Elvis, just look at the issue of our adverts that we see normally. We have a type of corporate multiculturalism. We see beautiful pictures of the non-racial image, but the reality is completely different. So we need to align our society with the objectives of doing away with racism. Remember, you know, when we had the transition, in South Africa we had a composition of various forms of racism, from religious racism to cultural racism, to the actual biogenetic racism which the apartheid government proposed.
To conclude it, Dr. Martin, what should our communities be thinking about if they want to bring about change where they live?
Yeah. Elvis, there's no way around it. Eben, sorry. We cannot do without intra-community dialogue. This is the way forward. And it's a challenge that political parties cannot run away from. Because as poverty deepens, as joblessness increases, the tensions between our expectations of our society have to be dealt with, and they have to be dealt with at community level.
Thank you for coming in today. Dr. Leonard Martin, social commentator. He's also, of course, resident in Eldorado Park. And we're talking about Klipspruit West and the issues that we've seen at that specific school. Of course, it was broken down to be race, but it wasn't really race, we are told. In the end, it was process. But we ask you the question, why are schools overrun with violence and racism? These are real issues. Let's take a look at what you guys are tweeting us with regards to this question. Mzolisi tells us kids are growing up alone via schooling far due to in schools in their immediate surroundings are not offering quality education, says Mzolisi. Nazim tells us everything starts at home. Parents are no longer involved in their kids' lives, I think because of the laws that were laid down by our government. Wow, interesting one. Lazarus Sema says to us, pupils or learners belong to communities and have families. We must work hand in hand with the Department of Education and police to curb crime. Yes, we all have a contribution to make, no doubt about that. Now that's where my little bit for the now comes to an end on the Newsroom show. It's been a wonderful journey. I trust you've enjoyed it. The show will always go on Monday. Elvis and Kendall, hopefully soon one other body, will join you and bring you all the best of morning news television South Africa has to offer. It's been a great journey. I thank you for watching. You will see me again somewhere, sometime. I just don't know when. Bye-bye.
The Pan-African Parliament, as a legislative body, could go a long way in continuing to promote women's rights in all African member states.
Moon will be elected president. A decisive win by him will provide much-needed stability in South Korea.
The Deputy President and the SADC Oversight Committee have been mandated to convene a multi-stakeholder national dialogue before elections.
5 teams are trapped in the relegation mud. These include Bloemfontein Celtic, 12th on the log, followed by Chipa United, Free State Stars and Baroka, who are second from the bottom, as well as Highlands Park, who have won only 4 matches.
We're on point with breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune into Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
We're talking news, business and sporting updates both continentally and abroad. South Africa is in its first economic recession since 2009.
Currency has appreciated quite a lot, especially for this year. And it has benefited from a number of things, not so much to do with what was happening here at home.
The Islamic State-linked news agency Amaq claims the latest attack was launched because of Australia's backing in the US fight against the group.
Constad is one of the dozens of women who have accused Cosby of sexual assault, but hers is the only case recent enough to be subjected to criminal prosecution.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makhamate, and a bit of a goodbye was saying to Yeben there on the show. It's been a fantastic time spent with him, learning, growing, and also sharing thoughts and ideas. Talking about sharing thoughts and ideas, I want to share with you what's happening out in the cricket, because South Africa has started its home summer on the front foot, at least on the field of play. We're going to take a quick look at what's happening out at Senvers Park, where the Proteas start off day 2 in complete control of their first test against Bangladesh. Currently, we've got Amla on a century and Elgo on 154. 355 for 1 is the current score. We go there live to take commentary from our SABC commentators.
Knock on the door for many, many, many years and notch up the runs at first-class cricket and notch up the performances. Toby Roland Jones, who made his actually his debut, I think, against South Africa at the Oval, played 8 years, continuing to be a top wicket taker in county cricket, to only get an opportunity later against South Africa 8 years later. And this is an excellent shot by Hashim Amla under his eyes, uses the pace of the ball, great placement.
the class of Amla, isn't it? Absolute ease. Don't really realize how he's managed to get it, the placement, the pace with which the delivery is racing towards the boundary. Just looks in his zone at the moment.
Incredible shot. Yeah, beautiful stuff there by Hashim Amla. That's why he's considered one of the best batsmen to ever have come out of South Africa. Now, while the Proteas are lording it over the visiting Bangladeshi side, there was drama off the field yesterday. CEO Harun Lorgat and the Board of Cricket South Africa agreed to part ways with immediate effect. Remember, we brought that to you from here live yesterday. Now, Tando spoke to Natalie Germanos about it late yesterday. Let's have a listen.
Everybody was shocked, especially in the opening day of the first test. A big summer for Cricket South Africa. But let's be honest with ourselves. Harun has done a lot for Cricket South Africa, and if it be that he bows out this way, then well, we'll only get to hear later what actually did happen. But for now, let's accept what is, and obviously look forward to greater things like the global team. Big summer, and I must say I've got a bit of a feeling that the India series does pan in a little bit somewhere here, but hey, let's wait and see. But it's definitely a great loss for Cricket South Africa. A good addition in Thabang Moroe taking that up. He's a very, very, very good visionary in that Cricket South Africa structures. He showed it at the Gauteng Lions as well, at the Gauteng Cricket rather, when he teamed up with Greg, and he definitely made sure that he went to Cricket South Africa, leaving Gauteng Cricket in good space, and it's no-brainer that he can step into those shoes. A young man who has a lot of good vision for cricket in South Africa in general.
Look at Harun Lorgat. He came into the position in a tough situation for Cricket South Africa. There was a lot of negativity around Cricket South Africa. He had a lot of work to do. It was all about sort of fixing things, putting a bit of band-aids here and there, but then also, of course, setting up the structures for future. Do you think he was the right man for the job? A lot of people saying he was just the right man for the job at the time.
He was the perfect man for the job. More than anything, he put a lot of money into the Cricket South Africa coffers. And if you look at the stage where we are now with the global T20s about to take off, we've got everything almost settled, except for one or two things here and there, broadcasting rights and so forth. But if you look at the teams, everybody's happy. They've got owners and everybody is up and running. There have been launches, everything. So he's leaving everything in a good state and in a good space as well. But him being the right man for the job, very, very controlling and a very demanding man, because he knows how good he is. He's an excellent ambassador of cricket in general, and he has an accounting background as well, of which some people tend to say that, look, maybe the financial side of Cricket South Africa and how it was run has become a bit of a problem of late, of which hence he has resigned in such a manner. But let's not play hide and seek about it. He has been more than a good man for Cricket South Africa in general.
From Tando Kamani there, chatted to Natalie Germanos yesterday. Now, and from one national sport to another, where flank Francois Lowe is back in the Springboks starting 15 after almost a year on the sidelines. Well, it was confirmed that Dylan Lades will start for the first time at wing. There are also 3 changes to the starting 15 who got caned by the All Blacks for South Africa's Rugby Championship Test match against Australia in Bloem on Saturday. We've got Ross Cronje coming back as scrum half in the place of Francois Hougaard, who has been dropped from the squad.
Lowe last played for the Boks at the beginning of October last year in a losing test against the All Blacks. Apart from the tendency to choose local players, his chances were further diminished by injuries. He replaces Jean-Luc du Preez, who's on the bench.
There's definitely a trend upwards and forwards considering what we achieved last year. It's exciting, no doubt about that, but definitely a lot of work to be done. We don't actually want to be conceding points like we have been against New Zealand. We want to be more competitive in that regard.
Lades got less than 20 minutes game time as a substitute in all 3 test matches against France earlier this year. He now has a better opportunity to prove himself after replacing Raymond Rule. Hooker, Chiliboy Ralapele, is the one surprise on the bench, replacing Bongi Mbonambi.
So we've learned from our mistakes and we've grown out of it. So we've worked on a great turnaround strategy for this week and we're really looking forward to executing it this weekend.
Bok coach Alistair Coetzee wants his changes to show him they deserve to be in the team.
Yeah, Dylan is different in a way that he's got the
fullback sort of spatial awareness added to his game. He's got a good right boot as well. He's got a good feel for space. So I'd like to see very similar things on attack, but definitely understands what we need of, from the defence as well.
Rudy Page, Andre Pollard and Damian Dalende are the backline players on the bench. Harry Olivier, SABC News.
I'm very happy to see that Chiliwe Ralepelle is back in the Springbok fold after he got that doping ban some 2 years. It's been over a year now that he's been back playing rugby. Well done, great road, great comeback. Now, Bafana plays Burkina Faso in a crucial 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifier on Saturday, the 7th of October at the FNB Stadium in Johannesburg. Jacques Robillard, the CEO of Stadium Management, the managing agent for the stadium, spoke to SABC about their preparations for the match. On being asked about the progress of the inquiry into the stampede at the end of July this year, he had this to say.
The inquest have not been appointed yet.
Right.
We expect the appointment to deal with basically 2 or 3 aspects. What happened on the day, what lead up to the events on the day, and lastly, is there anybody to blame? Was there negligence? So that would, in my opinion, be the terms of reference. We're still waiting for that. Concurrently, there's a police docket opened and the police are investigating that specific docket. From a stadium perspective, we don't host the events ourselves. There's various different role players. You've got the stadium authority, you've got the event organizer, you've got the clubs, you've got various other people like the police, different formations of the police, city entities, emergency management services, etc., etc. Maybe 50 people who forms an event safety and security planning committee. And it's not our duty to, and our place, to do the inquest in the public. That inquest will be done on its time by retired judges, and we're waiting for that to happen. In the meantime, we've taken note about what happened on the day and what we can do to better the services.
There you had it from the horse's mouth himself, and the big news there, though, is that the ministerial inquiry has not been instituted yet. We thought it was urgent, but clearly not that urgent. We'll take a short break. We'll come back. Top of the hour. You're watching Newsroom.
What guides us? Is it something you can see?
We need deliverance from sin, because God never
Hear?
carry on working to spread the message
Feel?
to the whole world.
Or touch? What leads us onto greater experiences? Is it the words of our sacred texts? The advice of our elders? Or is it the actions of our people? The strength of our beliefs? Or the voices of our citizens? Your country is guided by the voices of its people, and your broadcaster is dependent on your voice to guide it. Get your copy of the SABC's editorial policy and have your say.
After a horrific accident, major questions were asked.
So step one, I asked myself, do I really want to die? And my answer to that was, I'm not sure. And then step two was, do I want my parents to bury me? And the answer to that was no.
Lanning kept his brain in full action on how the brain works.
When I was in hospital, right, as I was saying, to catch up with my peers, I started to become obsessed with memory techniques and how the brain works and how we retain information.
Touching lives is his continuous mission.
I now work for a non-profit where we deal with access issues regarding kids with disabilities and persons with disability. We're busy working on beach access.
Being wheelchair-bound did not stop fun in his life.
I party in a wheelchair, I laugh in a wheelchair, I smile in a wheelchair.
For all your uplifting stories, catch Bupilong every Friday.
the Pan-African Parliament as a legislative body could go a long way in continuing to promote women's rights in all African member states.
Moon will be elected president. A decisive win by him will provide much-needed stability in South Korea.
The Deputy President and the SADC Oversight Committee have been mandated to convene a multi-stakeholder national dialogue before elections.
5 teams are trapped in the relegation mud. These include Bloemfontein Celtic, 12th on the log, followed by Chippa United, Free State Stars and Baroka, who are second from the bottom, as well as Highlands Park, who have won only 4 matches.
We're on point with breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune into Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
It's a Friday, it's the final hour here on the Newsroom, Jumbo Africa, and a warm welcome. My name is Elvis Presley.
I'm Kendall Makamat.
We will be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now today we focus on, Kendall, racial tensions in our schools as well as the violence where a 7-year-old will take a handgun to school.
With bullets, with live ammunition.
Yes.
You know, there's so many questions that come up out of it, how he got the gun and so on, but the fact is he chose violence to go and sort out an issue that he had at school, and he's not the first to try and do that.
That's why we're asking this question. Why is there so much violence in our school? Mara, why? Let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on the Facebook page. Let's take a look at what you are tweeting us.
Francis says, rather bring back the Scorpions, but I think it will fill some with fear. Of course, this is with regards to our massive question on the tactical response teams, which we'll get to shortly.
Pupils or learners belong to communities, IG Lazarus Sema, and have families. We must work hand in hand with the Department of Education and police to curb crime. Now, I can't agree with you more on that, Lazarus. I think it's an absolute sober thought.
Absolutely. Mzolisi also says parents cannot outsource their parental duties to educators. We are a nation that's raising violent beings in our kids. That is sad. Mzolisi, you're absolutely correct. You cannot outsource your duties as a parent to someone else.
As a parent, take care of your children. But we're also focusing on our communities, because violence begets violence. It spills into the streets, it spills into your schools, and it starts in your community. And that's why we focus on this issue, the reintroduction of the police tactical response team. And we're asking you, will it reduce crime, Kendall?
Yes, once again, we're not necessarily dealing with the source, we're dealing with the symptom of it. How do we reduce crime in our communities, and do you think this will work or not? The reintroduction of the tactical response and tracking teams.
Matthias says, a police agent should not serve the place that he or she grew up in. Bring Spadey to Eastern Cape. Will that make a difference, though?
Yeah. Nazim comes and says, I really don't have faith in these TRT teams because they've become criminals within the force. You know what I'd really like to see as well would be the votes that were put up on that particular poll, to see how many we had and what this percentage split was. If we can bring that up again, it would be fantastic to share with the rest of our viewers.
In fact, if we can do it right now, if we can put up that poll and see what the numbers suggest, because you were voting earlier on, and so far you have 263 votes in, Kendall. 70% says the introduction of Amabarete, that response and tracking team, will help decrease crime. 70%. So people are very positive about it. Only 30% are suggesting no. Now that 30% could be your criminal element within your community.
We do have Nazim, the likes of Nazim are also saying though that they themselves have become criminal elements within the police force. So it remains to be seen how well it's managed and what kind of guidelines they work with.
Well, those are some of your comments there, but let's take a look now at our sporting question. The Proteas are doing very well. Well, they started off yesterday. They started off with a bang with their opening pair.
Yep.
So that's why this question.
Absolutely. Is Aiden Makram the right man to partner Dean Elgar? Have we found the solution to our opening batting woes? Let's see what you're saying to us on the social media sphere.
Mashlamola says, it's too early to say. If so, I'd say it's about time.
Nazim also comes in on this one and says, he also says it's too early to say that, but this Makram is promising to be a good opening batsman. I couldn't agree with you more. Nazim Kupo.
Well, one of these days you'll hear a song, Hey Makarima or Makara. There you have it. Those are your sporting questions, and of course the other questions. Please participate with us on social media. But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. The High Court in Pretoria has ruled against the DA in the state capture case and has granted President Jacob Zuma a stay in immediately implementing a judicial commission of inquiry. Chief Justice Mogoeng says more efforts should be made to share the wealth between races in South Africa. And Stats SA says that sexual offences, hijackings and murder have increased in the country between 2016 and 2017. Those are your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports field.
It's a big day, a couple of days of great cricket. The test summer, the home summer for South Africa has started, Elvis, and we start off, of course, with Bangladesh. And let's see what is happening out in Potchefstroom, because lots been said about our opening, our partnerships, our top three batsmen. As you can see right now, 368 for 1 is the current score, and just stay tuned. And it's been a really good going for the South Africans. Take quick commentary to hear what's being said and what's being done out in the middle of play.
Keep low and a couple maybe bounce and turn. And they will definitely see some more turn as the game goes on. I reckon by this afternoon, day 3, it will definitely take a lot more turn than it currently is.
Right. All right, we'll see how far they get. I do hope that Themba Bavuma gets to play as well and maybe convert, get his second ton as well after that great one in Cape Town not so long ago. Now, we carry on with what else we brought for you in the sports. This is what it is.
It's exciting, no doubt about that, but definitely a lot of work to be done. We don't actually want to be, conceding points like we have been against New Zealand. We want to be more competitive in that regards.
After a year on the sidelines, veteran Francois Lowe rejoins a hurt Springbok side who have it all to do to redeem themselves when they man up against their wary wannabe side tomorrow. And Arsenal makes it 2 out of 2 as it eases past Borisov 4-2 in the Europa League group stage match yesterday.
Well, that's given away to Theo Walcott. Awful error, and it's punished clinically by Walcott, but it's a real gift of a goal.
Of course, all pundits are saying that Arsenal is just too good for the Europa League, that they need to win it this year, just like Manchester United did last time round. All this and more a little later. For now, it's back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The High Court in Pretoria has ruled against the Democratic Alliance in the state capture case and has granted President Jacob Zuma a stay in immediately implementing a judicial commission of inquiry, as was recommended in the former Public Protector's State of Capture report. Now, this was until his application for a review of that remedial action recommended by the report is heard in October. The DA and the Public Protector were ordered to pay cost of the application. In her report, the then Public Protector, Thuli Madonsela, recommended that Zuma establish a commission of inquiry into state capture and that Chief Justice Mogoeng choose a judge to preside over it. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice Mogoeng has challenged South Africans to think about the impact of racial tensions on future generations. Now, he was delivering the annual Bram Fischer lecture at the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg. The Chief Justice called on South Africans to work together and set aside their differences. But it was the love of money and misuse of power that he criticized strongly, saying it made human life not matter anymore. He said citizens need to reflect on the traits of anti-apartheid activists such as Fischer to take the country forward. He also encouraged citizens to propose strategies that do not exclude specific races in addressing issues of land restitution.
Instead of allowing issues around land restitution to divide us with all sorts of narratives, the ones say, yes, these whites don't want to release the land. The others say, no, this government of these black people doesn't want to distribute the land that is already available and belongs to the state. can't we use our intellectual prowess and our energies to work out strategies just as we did with our constitution, to work out strategies around the land question that can be accepted to everybody, black and white, that is not oppressive to anybody, so that we can make more progress than we have made so far.
The Minister of Police has relaunched the recently bolstered Tactical Response and Tracking Teams, or Amabarete. The teams have been reinforced with necessary skills and resources to provide professional and effective service to create a safe and secure environment. Our reporter Sipho Stierman spoke to the Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula.
We are relaunching because we are intensifying our efforts in the fight against crime in the township and everywhere else in the suburbs in South Africa. Our target is Gauteng. And like I said, that we mean business. So the deployment is going to be to the most affected and dangerous areas in the country. And smoking out criminals where they are found in the dangerous communities of South Africa.
All right. In the past, when they were first launched by the former police commissioner Bekele, there were some elements of rogue operations by the TRT. Some people saying that they were a bit heavy-handed in the townships. So will that change this time around? Is that something that you are wary of,
General Cruiser?
Well, I think the units are trained to deal with medium and high-risk activities, as we know, hijacking, CITs, and there were small elements, but majorly they had a massive impact, and communities which is under siege in terms of violence are actually calling for them to come back and ensure. So we have refocused them and in terms of the threats which is based in Gauteng at the moment. So they have a very clear mandate to deal with the issue of medium to high risk crime and deal with it effectively and efficiently.
All right. So, what new skills have they they've attained? Have they been retrained? What's new? What are they bringing to the table that's a bit different from 2009?
Well, the skills are the same, but we're now focusing based on the threats. We've analyzed what the threats are in Gauteng, and we've briefed them and trained them to deal with the specific threats. So they focus. They're not just in the broad base. They would know if they go to Tembisa, this is the particular threats around trio crimes. So they would know how to deal with that issue and respond to those sort of criminals itself.
Minister, obviously you mentioned in Parliament that you wanted to bring the Amabarete back. Just talk to us what has been the response since you made that announcement. Are the communities calling for them?
Well, communities are very excited about that, and it is the communities themselves who said that.
Okay, let's take our position.
Bring them back and ensure that we squeeze the space for criminality, and we intensify the tactical response for our law enforcement agencies. So Amabarete are closing that particular gap, and we ourselves are very much excited, and we're going to intensify, even including the numbers on the ground, to ensure that we nail them down. It's not only Amabarete that we're bringing back the tracing teams, all the wanted criminals, wherever they are. Like I've said, whatever they do, they must know that we'll find them.
Warning there from the police minister. So if you're a criminal, be aware. Now, we are asking you this question, of course, on our poll today. If we put up that poll, you see the numbers, how it's growing there, 269 votes in. Will the reintroduction of the tactical response and tracking teams help decrease crime? 71% of you are saying yes, it will. Only 29% are disagreeing with that fact. You're also tweeting us on the matter, so keep them coming right here on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page, but send them through. Let's see if we got some more fresh tweets coming in. As they come through, we'll read them as we continue at SABC Newsroom. This one coming from Lachasa says, yes, I agree with Amabarete. They must take charge. Lachasa continues, says, I remember during Bekele's time, we never had such an incident where drugs were sold like amagwini. Amagwinya. So drugs are like amagwinya. This one from the, for those that don't know amagwinya, of course, a fat cake that you can buy on the streets. Laboyo says the TRT of Becky Kele never played. They meant business. Early nights in Shebeens and no roaming around at night. That's true. There was some order, law and order they call it. It's about time that the criminals get their share of law and order. Stats South Africa, though, has expressed concern that only about half of all crimes are reported to the police. A survey on household crime has revealed an increase in sexual offences, hijackings and murder in the past 2 years.
Females are equally victims, and largely 82% of white victims, as opposed to 26% of black African victims, are likely to report. Whites report, blacks probably sort this thing out. Society is feeling very unsafe. 7%. With the way the courts deal with this, I mean, that they are feeling that the courts are not doing what is supposed to be done, that satisfaction is declining from a high of 63 in 2013 to a low of 44. So there is a very serious problem around how society feels about the criminal justice system.
Police are investigating the death of a 27-year-old Sizwe Mbokazi. He was shot dead in a shootout between police and suspected hijackers in Alexander Township on Wednesday night.
It was here where 27-year-old Sizwe Giant Mbokazi was sitting with his friends playing cards. Unbeknownst to them all, the evening would end in tragedy.
Why did the police start shooting when they got here? Because they know that this is a busy street that has children running around. That's how they shot our friend. When we confronted the police afterwards, they said they don't care about us because they are chasing their suspect.
They have to stop. They have to look for the right police.
They must get people trained for the job and not just pick people from the street and make them policemen.
Post-mortem results, coupled by ballistics report, will shed light as to who pulled the trigger that led to Mbokazi's death.
The IP were summoned and they were at the scene. So far, we are going to investigate the matter at the police station at the moment. The police firearms will be taken to ballistic to check if it's not the one which happened to shoot the deceased.
One suspect has been arrested. He faces charges of possession of an unlicensed firearm and attempted hijacking. Nozindomi Mia, SABC News, Alex Township.
The ANC in the Eastern Cape has pulled out all the stops to ensure that their 8th elective conference runs smoothly. Out of the 705 wards in the province, 568 have been given the green light to participate in the conference following an auditing process. Now, it's all systems go.
The ANC leadership in the Eastern Cape says the party is ready to run a credible elective conference. The top 5 leadership positions in the province are being contested. The chairperson position is set to be contested between the incumbent Premier Phumulo Masualle and Provincial Secretary Oscar Mabuyane, but they would not pronounce on the contest and focused on the logistics of the conference.
Issue of who is standing for what position is a matter that the Electoral Commission, upon receipt of the nominations from branches and also screening those nominations for them, whether they qualify or not, then would approach those individuals affected for them to indicate whether or not they are availing themselves.
Yes, indeed, 70% was met long time ago. Our conferences are not about 70%. It's just a minimum requirement in terms of threshold. Conference of the ANC are about dealing with serious matters of the country, policy issues, not just having numbers into the conference. So we always strive for 100%.
The national body of the ANC is satisfied with the procedure.
It must continue to restore confidence of our people to the ANC, and it must continue to inspire our people. So whatever happens, it can't achieve one of the two, it must achieve both.
1,700 delegates will take part in the conference. The election results are expected to be announced on Sunday when the conference closes. I am Atule Joga for SABC News, East London.
The Hawks in the Northern Cape are on the trial of loan sharks who contravened the National Credit Act. A 44-year-old Berkeley West woman is expected to appear in the court today for possession of SASSA as well as Easy Pay cards. Now, she was arrested whilst withdrawing money with clients' cards from an ATM.
Jasmine Madeche receives a 2,700 Rand grant for 3 children. But sometimes ends just refuse to meet and she needs a helping hand.
Yeah, I did go for loans and it's now 3 months I got problem with the money. For the children, the grant money. I don't know where the money go to, you understand?
Madeche's story is not unique. Unemployment and poverty force many to desperation. The Hawk says some moneylenders take the SASSA cards and IDs of clients in contravention of the National Credit Act.
It's really against the law because the card is issued to an individual. Same goes with the bank. The card is issued to an individual, and in the event that that individual, for instance, if a child is a minor, there is a caregiver or somebody who is registered with the department to be the legal user of the card. So anyone else who's using it is doing that against the law.
The Hawk says since their first arrest in February, the floodgates opened. They've arrested 23 suspects since then in possession of documents and money.
And they give those people their SASSA to check out where the money go to. Then they say, no, it's new from the cash loan. They take my money.
The month-end withdrawals would be done. That person would now have to go to the place to queue for his whatever that is left over, and that would actually put them in a situation where they have to make another loan, and it's a chain reaction and it's an unending game.
The Hawk says 9 cases are still pending, but operations are ongoing and they hope to arrest more suspects contravening the act. Most perpetrators plead guilty and is issued with a fine or a jail term of 18 months. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Berkeley West, Northern Cape.
Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe will pay an official visit to South Africa on Tuesday, the 3rd of October. President Mugabe will be attending the South Africa-Zimbabwe Binational Commission, hosted by the President Jacob Zuma in Pretoria. The last time President Mugabe was in the country was in August during the SADC summit that was held in Pretoria. The relations between South Africa and Zimbabwe dates back during the apartheid era, when the two liberation movements, ZANU-PF and the ANC, fought side by side to defeat the apartheid government. Post-1994, relations have been strengthened at political as well as trade levels. In April 2015, the two countries established the Binational Commission, and the inauguration took place in October 2016 in Harare. The BNC will be co-chaired by Presidents Jacob Zuma as well as Robert Mugabe. This will afford both heads of state an opportunity to review the state of the bilateral relationship between the two neighboring countries. The two leaders are also expected to deliberate and exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual concern, particularly peace, security, stability and development in the SADC region and some parts of the continent. Zimbabwe is one of South Africa's top 5 trading partners on the continent, with trade statistics showing annual growth, and in 2016 South Africa's exports to Zimbabwe amounted to approximately 29.3 billion rand. To date, the two countries have signed more than 40 memorandum of understanding and agreements. Now, these include, among others, trade and investment, immigration and defense. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's premier tourism business expo, the Sanganai Shlanganani World Travel Expo, is underway in the country's second largest city of Bulawayo. The 4-day expo, which is in its 10th year, has attracted 350 exhibitors compared to 236 who attended the 2016 edition last year, representing a 40% growth in exhibitor numbers.
Zimbabwe's tourism minister maintains tourism sector is Zimbabwe's quickest way to escape the poor economic situation in that country.
South Africa Tourism Board
it is coming back to Sanganai after a decade of absence at this show. So we are very happy that South Africa is coming back to Sanganai Hlanganani. Then, of course, some of the countries that will be participating, they include Egypt, Namibia, Ghana, Botswana, Kenya, South Africa, Malawi, Mozambique, and Zambia. We have 24 buyers coming from South Africa, and of course, Tanzania, there is 15, Nigeria 14, Uganda 13.
International tourist arrivals to Africa grew by an average of 6%.
The thrust is not mainly just to focus on the markets which are beyond Africa, but of course we are also focusing within Africa in terms of intra-Africa business. Right now, if we are to look at our key source market, so to say, it's even South Africa. So we are also investing a lot of efforts in terms of our focus on Africa. It's not just like we are concentrating beyond the continent.
Most importantly, as Africans, we need to buy Africa first. Because as Africans, if we don't buy Africa, it's going to be difficult to sell Africa. And it's going to be difficult for others to buy Africa. We have to be consistent. We have to be consistent from one country to the other. But most importantly, from one country to the other, we need to understand what makes us different. Because the magic of Africa is the diversity. Magic Africa is the diversity of the 55 different countries, because all of them are beautiful, all of them are at different levels of development, but all of them have got something particularly distinctive about them.
Zimbabwe's Finance Minister Patrick Chinamasa will officially open the expo on Friday. Sophie Mungwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
News from abroad now. The Muslims of Myanmar's Rakhine state should be granted nationality. Now, that was the call of the UN Secretary-General to authorities in the country formerly known as Burma. The humanitarian crisis has seen more than 500,000 ethnic minority Rohingya Muslims flee the country to safety in Bangladesh.
The UN chief wants to see 3 immediate steps from Myanmar authorities: an end to military operations, unfettered humanitarian access, and to ensure the safe, voluntary and sustainable return of refugees.
The devastating humanitarian situation is not only a breeding ground for radicalization, it also puts vulnerable people, including young children, at risk of criminal elements, including trafficking. We have received bone-chilling accounts from those who fled, mainly women, children and the elderly.
Myanmar authorities argue they're fighting terrorists after Rohingya rebels attacked several Myanmar security posts on August 25th.
We cannot be afraid to call the actions of the Burmese authorities what they appear to be: a brutal, sustained campaign to cleanse the country of an ethnic minority. And it should shame senior Burmese leaders who have sacrificed so much for an open, democratic Burma. The Burmese government claims it is battling terrorists. If this is true, let them allow media and humanitarian access to back up their claim.
While a dark shadow has been cast over Myanmar's leadership, including Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. Assumes the council presidency next month, has invited former UN Chief Kofi Annan to address it after chairing an advisory commission tasked with healing the long-simmering divisions in the country. Sherwin Briceby's SABC News, New York.
With the stories of abuse from the other 8, but they haven't been ready to pursue any angles. They've offered their support, they've offered the comfort to the 8, and it's been an amazing journey.
It feels like your heart actually literally sunk in your shoes.
It wasn't a long encounter. I think at the time I froze.
the way the criminal justice system deals with sexual violence is problematic. And I don't know, unless there's a fundamental change in many things, the way prosecutors deal with the victim in the matter.
For all investigative insights, stay tuned to Special Assignment every Saturday at 17:30.
Africans are increasingly using digital platforms for life, work and play.
Information is key for us. We live in an information age. We live in the digital age.
I'm mostly on WhatsApp because not all my friends have iPhones, so they don't have FaceTime.
On Network, we tell you about Africa's technology and social media landscape. And some here are using the internet to raise political concerns.
Some of the exposés on political issues come from what we call your diasporic online media.
Africans are also using technology to create. For African technology and social media news, join me, Phumelele Zondi, on Network every Sunday at 9 p.m.
It affects us all. In one of the shocking latest ones, a 17-year-old pupil was killed by a 16-year-old outside of school in Ntamhlope near Escort in KwaZulu-Natal recently. Police said the incident happened outside the gate of the Tlatikulu High School in the Ntamhlope area. Now, it's believed that the deceased was a pupil at the same school. Police are also investigating a case of murder and the possession of a dangerous weapon. The Mercury reported last month about concerns about this spike in violence at schools in KwaZulu-Natal. This included assaults by pupils on other pupils, pupils on teachers, and incidents of corporal punishment and sexual assaults on pupils by teachers. Early in August, a shocking video of a schoolgirl being violently assaulted by a male pupil at the Sia Tutuka High School in Inanda, north of Durban, emerged on Twitter as well. Now, we are joined by the KwaZulu-Natal's Department of Education, HOD, Dr. Vusumuzi Nzama, from our studios in Durban. A very good morning to you, Dr. Nzama, and thank you for being with us.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners at home.
Doctor, just give us your views on this perceived spike of violence and violence incidents at schools in KwaZulu-Natal particularly.
Thank you very much. Yes, I must agree that violence in our schools has become a problem and has an effect on the teaching and learning programs. But it comes in different forms. Sometimes it's a violence that has started outside the school premises. Sometimes it's as a result of the faction fights, or it's a sort of come into school premises as a result of the clashes amongst the students themselves or between the students themselves. And that also, this violence is sometimes directed to teachers or is it directed to other students or learners at school level. It's something that is really has an effect on our program, especially the teaching and learning programs. It does affect that. But the real cause of this violence can be twofold. One, learners who are, when come to schools, bring weapons along, and then some would then feel provoked because of situations that are beyond their control, as it happened at Esikaweni in Richards Bay Secondary School, where learners had to fight amongst themselves within the school premises. And those clashes are sometimes not known to the teachers. They come as a result of the clash or clashes amongst the students themselves. And that's why, it then necessitates that teachers have to come in, principals, SGBs, ourselves, the community, and intervene. And it has now spread into a number of schools. The second problem is that of the faction fights, where learners come to schools with those grudges, and then they will then continue with the fight that has started outside the school premises. which becomes so hard and difficult for the principal and school management to manage that situation, because at the time when it started, it was far from school premises. And then the third one being that of the learners who come to school, but sometimes do not listen to their teachers, listen and be able to learn without, provoking educators. That's why I'm saying the violence in KZN comes in a number of different ways. And as a result, teachers, when they are to intervene, they are attacked, as it happened in one of our schools in Ladysmith, where 2 teachers were stabbed by a student. They are attacked, and that causes also instability. And teachers then become afraid of coming closer to the learners. As a result, intervention programs, much as they are given to these learners, counseling and all that, are not of great assistance, because the issue is about the way these learners have been brought up, and also the way they have been taught from home, so that at school they are expected to behave in a certain way. KZN does have this problem of number of schools with learners who are bring weapons into school premises, and then make sure that they either provoke other learners or they provoke the teachers themselves.
Do you say that parents are not active in the lives of children academically and in teaching them about the issues around violence and respect?
I wouldn't say so. I would say some parents are not directly involved in the teaching and learning of their children. Some do. What is difficult is that when a child leaves home in the morning, he or she carries a bag. You don't know what is contained in that bag. And the parents will have a responsibility to check if there is no weapon being carried by the child at that particular time. And if the parent is not active in terms of checking with the child, engaging the child at home before the child leaves home, it then becomes so hard for a teacher at school level to know and to also control that particular child. Some parents are directly involved in the teaching and learning of their children. Yeah. Some are not. So it's difficult to say all of them. I would say yes, they are involved, but at a very low scale. Yeah. Because bulk of these learners are not being given clear direction.
What about exam season that is now upon us? Are we ready for exams?
KZN has made a lot of preparations. From the beginning of the year, we introduced the Provincial Academic Improvement Plan, and there has been a lot of development in terms of teachers being given capacity building in terms of content knowledge and methodologies. Learners have been given support, study guides, teaching and learning has been in full force throughout the year, writing common tests, half-yearly exams, providing interventions with Saturday classes, morning classes. Learners are adequately prepared for these exams, and that also the department has prepared itself thoroughly in terms of the administration of exams. So we have done it in 2 ways, the preparation of learners and the preparation of the department itself to manage exams. So we are confident that we are on board and we are waiting for the exams, and we'll do well this year.
Just quickly, Doctor, you've got 30 seconds to talk to me about racism in schools. Are you happy that you've got a handle on racism in schools in KwaZulu-Natal?
I'm not happy at all. In a number of schools, the question of racism is still a dominant factor. It is a problem, especially in schools where there is mixed and also mixed two different learners coming from different backgrounds. It's a serious problem, and I can tell you that the control and the manner it's managed is not satisfactory as far as I'm concerned, because I'm receiving a number of cases of racism, teachers being also not being able to control it, to manage it, and some cases being the manner they are managed is such that there is no transparency, there is no strong control. It does have a detrimental effect in terms of the teaching and learning in a number of schools. Racism is still a serious issue.
Doctor, thank you very much for your contribution on Newsroom today.
Problem, honestly.
That's the HOD, KZN Education, Dr. Vuzumuzi Nzama telling us he's not happy with the levels of violence and he's not happy with issues of racism within schools.
Over 5% of the world's population, or 360 million people, has disabling hearing loss.
Sometimes babies are born that can't hear. Yeah. And especially during the pregnancy, where there's some infections that a mom could pick up that can actually transmit that damage to the ear, and those children can be born deaf.
I don't look at myself as a disabled person. I looked at myself as Bruno, not with a disability. I don't have barriers. I use South African Sign Language because I have a language.
And unfortunately, we need to talk to the teenagers and the young people out there. I know it's now fine to go to the concerts and listen to that loud music, but you're actually damaging those little hair cells all the time. And you're not going to pay the price now. You're going to pay the price when you turn 45, 50. And then all of a sudden, we're going to see the damage done.
For all your health news, join Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
Countries in the East African region have started experimenting with wines.
Located in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo in South Kivu province, this park is the only place in the world to find the eastern lowland gorillas.
But the most famous monument in Casablanca is of course the Mosque Hassan II. The mosque is the third largest in the Muslim world.
The city of Tel Aviv and Israel's tourism ministry have teamed up with the local hotel chain to temporarily transform the tower into a two-story suite with hot tub, room service, and very unobstructed ocean views.
Catch Trends Travel every Sunday from 12 to 1 for all the global travel and leisure trends.
Welcome back. Time for the sport on this beautiful Friday morning. The time has just hit 20 to 12. We start off with the cricket out in Senvest in Potchefstroom, where South Africa is really lording it over the visiting Bangladeshi. At least on the field of play, it's been a fantastic start to this summer, the summer of tests for South Africa. As you can see, right now the score is sitting at 397 for 1. A 200-run partnership already have between these two great batsmen, Hashim Amla and Dean Elgar. Bangladeshi are struggling big time to try and keep pace with what's happening. As you can see, a quick rundown of how well Dean Elgar has done is what's playing out on the screen right now.
In my head, just obviously playing back in your mind what happened in 2012 and playing quite well.
Right now, I'm sure you'll be able to catch up with Dean Elgar's exploits a little later, but we will be keeping you up to date with what's happening out in Potchefstroom over the course of the day. There they are. They're about to start playing again, and it seems as if Dean Elgar is calling for a little bit of assistance. He might need need somebody to move away from his line of sight. I've got a few of the ground staff there in front of him, and he doesn't want them anywhere close to him. We'll go back there a little later. For now, let's carry on with the rest of our sports bulletin, because there's a lot to cover before we're done with the end of the day. Now we go to Kaizer Chiefs, who are facing an injury crisis ahead of their Absa Premiership clash with joint log leaders Baroka FC in Durban on Saturday evening. Steve Kompella's concern is that he's only got 20 players available for this encounter. The biggest challenge is that most of their injuries are long-term.
Bafana right back Ramahlwe Mphahlele will not be available for Amakosi for at least 4 months after undergoing knee surgery. Fellow defender Tsepo Masilela is also out for 3 months. Also missing in action are defenders Lorenzo Godinho and Sbuso Kumalo. However, other players are making a return after being sidelined by injuries such as Ryan Moon and George Maluleka.
We've just played 4 matches in 14 days, and at least now we had a bit of a breather. You could manage players, give them some time. And you know the challenge we're facing. We don't have too many players to choose from. We only have 20. But Baroka, we know them. Lots of energy. They run a lot. And they've assembled a good squad.
Masilela's unavailability has opened the door for Pilani Zulu, who was solid in the last 3 games. The 25-year-old former Maritzburg United defender is pleased with his form.
So far, so good. Even though it was unfortunate for Masilela to be injured, but I believe I've been doing much of a great job in that position. And it's been a great experience for me, even though I wasn't expecting to be playing so early, but I'm just grateful for the chance and opportunity to be playing for Kaizer Chiefs. Yeah.
Good news for Amakosi supporters is that the reliable goalkeeper and captain Itumeleng Kune will be available for selection. Kune was stretchered off the field in the final minutes of their match against Golden Arrows at the FNB Stadium last weekend. In the past 2 games, Kune had both his shoulders and his neck.
It was unfortunate that I couldn't finish the match, but I'm feeling better, even though I still have a little bit of pain, but the medics are taking care of it, and it feels great to be back on the field again.
But hard-tackling midfielder Willard Katsande will miss the match against Baroka due to suspension. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, Olivier Giroud scored his 100th goal for Arsenal as Theo Walcott made it a night for the oldies, netting a brace, and the Gunners cruised to a 4-1 victory over Bate Borisov. Arsenal's best chance of qualifying for next season's Champions League is really by winning the Europa League at the end of the campaign. For the second time in a row, Arsene Wenger fielded a second-string side for a group game. Now, to give the Gunners fans some cheer, I thought I'd bring you their goals.
The attributes that could complement each other. Wilshere is pulling the strings at the moment, and here he goes again. Walcott's in the middle, and will score this time. Just to miss out on the UEFA Champions League famously under Arsene Wenger. Well, that's given away to Theo Walcott. Awful error, and it's punished clinically by Walcott, but it's a real gift of a goal. There's the corner, flicked on, and it's in for 3-0. It's Rob Holding who's got the goal. Didn't know an awful lot about it, he was merely in the right place at the right time. Referee spotted here, he's indicating the shirt pull. Out has come the yellow card. But it's going to be Giroud, and it is 4-1 Arsenal. He finds the bottom corner emphatically. Perfect start to the second half for the Gunners. All over at the Borisov Arena, and Arsenal win away for the first time this season. Haven't scored away until tonight, but 4 goals for Arsene Wenger's men.
Have it. That's where we're going to leave it with the sport. As you all know by now, this is Eben's last day, and he's about to join me on set right now, just so we can just have a little chit-chat about some of what's happening over the weekend. I mean, look, I know that we're all looking forward to a great score, a batting score by the Proteas, but the Springboks, they've got a massive match up against the Wallabies on the Highveld. What are your thoughts there, or about the cricket first?
Well, both of them, you know, I just was sitting watching there, and I'm thinking how we don't really appreciate Hashim Amla while he's still alive. I don't want to politicize it, but you know, all the other guys that we make greats, none of them have done it with the humility that he does.
Come on in, man.
And I just think he's just a terrific human being and a credit to South Africa.
Yes.
And we should appreciate him while he's alive. And for the Springboks, well, I hope they win this weekend, because I think the lynch mob is ready if they don't.
Definitely ready, yeah. Look, I know, Elvis, like you follow both these sports extremely closely. I mean, what do you make it? I mean, do you think that if Alistair doesn't win this weekend, do you think he's going to have a really tough week?
It's going to be a very tough week, because, I mean, it's going to put some pressure, not on him, and the entire team for that matter.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
but
the pressure is on Alistair, no doubt.
But another man that's got... not really pressure, but
this.
Saying really goodbye today.
Who's that?
We're going to take him back. Look at that.
Isn't it cool?
SABC News. Does that remind you of way back?
I think this is way back in the day when we started the show. This is our production team. When we started out, I still see some of the people that were initially. We've done a lot of great guests and a lot of different style content on the show. You guys are making me a little bit nostalgic now, and a little bit, well,
some of the takes are here, some of the presenters you've worked with as well are here.
Yeah.
You know, even what stood out for you about the show most? What stood out most for you about the show?
It's the culture of the show is what stands out for me. You know, this is the only show that's here that I can be gone, Elvis can be gone, you can be gone, and the show kind of carries on. It kind of leads itself a little bit, you know. So that's what makes me very proud, is the fact that, yeah, I watch other shows now and they copy a lot what the show does. I'm not going to mention the names, but the show is being is the most copied show in television in South Africa right now, in news television. They copy a lot of what we've been doing, and I'm very proud of that, because it's the ultimate form of flattery. But they cannot copy the interpersonal relationships. They cannot copy the culture, and they cannot copy that little bit of Kwan that we've developed. And I hope that you guys carry on with that and always have a platform for people to discuss difficult topics.
Now, from myself and the team, we would like to say to you, thank you so much, because you brought all of that together. And as our executive producer, all the best of luck to you and into the future.
Thank you very much. I've also had some big blow-ups on the show, so it'll always be with me forever, Kendall.
It's been real, and you've been a great leader, and thank you very much for the opportunities of the platform, as well as the leadership you've shown on air and off air. I think it's been something definitely as a milestone in my life. It's been a good one.
Eben Janssen, ladies and gentlemen, South Africa, the continent of Africa. He'll be now on the primetime show every evening. But of course, he'll be behind the scenes. But he'll be here. He'll be in our midst.
Yeah, watch your space. There's a lot of work to do at the SABC, and hopefully we can all come together, unify our newsroom. I think everybody knows about the issues we've had here at SABC News. We're going to try and unify the newsroom and get everyone to kind of work together, and hopefully we'll do a Donald Trump and make the SABC great again. I mean, that's
blow our trumpet. We'll blow our trumpet right here on the show. Thank you so much, and all the best of luck here.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and I feel very honored and humbled to have been part of this process. Thank you.
There you have
South Africa, arrivederci. We'll see you tomorrow. No, Monday, same place, same time, right here on the Newsroom.
The Pan-African Parliament as a legislature